Chapter 3182. What are you trying to say? Becky Lou Leisha was even more displeased. Boss, that half-man, half-snake monster should be the one who controlled the red pearl before you. Now that he is dead, it is your turn to control it. Boss, do you understand what I mean now? Xianjing said with a smile. Becky Lou Leisha frowned. That half-man, half-snake monster doesn't look weak. Those people were able to finish it off in such a short time. Seems like I've underestimated them. Boss, why don't we discuss this further? Humph, no need. Their abilities are unexpected, but it won't change the outcome. Becky Lou Leisha rejected Xianzhang's suggestion decisively. Becky Lou Leisha brought the group to Qinzhao. Qinzhao's group was having dinner. They were surprised to see Becky Lou Leisha's group. Everyone was shocked and looked at Becky Lou Leisha in confusion. Ms. Becky, what's the matter? Familati asked. Nothing, Lou Leisha said seriously. I suddenly feel that betrayal is unforgivable, so I've decided to publicly execute you. Qinzhao's group's expressions turned strange. Publicly execute them. Everyone looked at Qinzhao. Clearly, he had the most say. Qinzhao stood up. Very special power. Seems like you've gained a lot. Becky Lou Leisha raised her hand. The ground around them started shaking. Stone pillars rose up behind Qinzhao's group to form a stone wall, as if to block their way. Now you have nowhere to run. You'll face despair. Becky Lou Leisha glanced at Qinzhao's group proudly. Becky Lou Leisha saw the surprise in Qinzhao's eyes. But she wasn't too afraid. She was slightly disappointed, but it didn't matter. The calmer he was now, the more terrified he'd be after witnessing her power. He wasn't afraid now because he hadn't recognized his own power yet. Becky Lou Leisha's group, on the other hand, felt uneasy. Because Becky Lou Leisha's strength was unexpectedly strong, even a little abnormal. This already made them feel very threatened. Becky Lou Leisha had killed one of her subordinates earlier, but it had been a sneak attack. However, at that time, it was mostly a sneak attack, so most people felt that if it were them, they would not have been so easily ambushed. But at this moment, they felt extremely uneasy. Especially Becky Lou Leisha's personality. It was fine when she was weak. Right now, she was already very powerful, and could even be said to be terrifying. Their relationship was no longer that of a superior and a subordinate, or that of an employee and an employer. Becky Lou Leisha completely treated herself as a queen. No voices of doubt were allowed to exist. Qinzhao looked at Becky Lou Leisha calmly. Becky Lou Leisha's power was very strange. It was a little like the inner world, but also a little like the outer world. Anyway, Qinzhao couldn't tell what Becky Lou Leisha's new power was. Also, the origin of her power was unknown. This reminded him of Sacred Michael's power. The true man who split his power into 5 parts. But it didn't matter where Becky Lou Leisha's power came from. With her current strength, it would be good if she could use 30% of it. But she didn't know it. But it was no wonder. She didn't even know what power she'd obtained, so how could she understand Qinzhao? Becky Lou Leisha clenched her fist. The surrounding soil and rocks started gathering toward a point. In a dozen seconds, a huge stone ball with a diameter of almost 30 meters had formed in the air. Everyone stared at the huge stone ball and sighed in admiration. Becky Lou Leisha was proud of her results, but she wasn't very satisfied. She was still working harder to create a bigger and more spectacular stone bowl. After her tireless efforts, the stone ball in the sky had already reached 40 meters. I'll give you one chance, Becky Lou Leisha threatened, looking at Qinzhao. Give me that tree spirit. Qinzhao smiled but didn't say anything. Becky Lou Leisha understood from Qinzhao's smile. It was a mocking smile. You asked for it. Becky Lou Leisha let go of her control of the stone ball. The stone ball fell from dozens of meters in the air. Familotti and the others covered their heads in fear. They didn't dare to look up. But when the stone ball fell more than 10 meters, it suddenly stopped. Everyone was stunned as they looked at the stone ball in astonishment. Chen Zhao was still looking at Becky Lou Leisha with a smile. Sorry to disappoint you. If that's all you can do, it'll be hard for you to make me yield. You need to work harder. Becky Lou Leisha stared at Chen Zhao in shock. How is that possible? She could create and control the stone ball because she now had the power of the entire island. Under normal circumstances, no one could move the 100-ton stone ball, let alone make it float in the air. However, Chen Zhao had used some unknown method to be able to hover in the air just like him. Of course, she could still see the difference. After all, she could make the stone ball float dozens of meters in the air. But Chen Zhao could only make it float more than 10 meters in the air. This also increased her confidence. Becky Lou Leisha felt that Chen Zhao was indeed powerful. But it wasn't enough to fight against her. You like playing with this thing? Then I'll let you play. The surrounding soil rose into the air again and gathered on the stone ball. Now, Becky Lou Leisha didn't need to split her power to control the stone ball, so she could fill it with soil without restraint. Theoretically, she could even increase the weight of the stone ball infinitely. She wanted to see when Chen Zhao would collapse. Then he would be smashed into meat paste by the overloaded stone ball. Becky Lou Leisha was imagining the scene. She felt that Chen Zhao must be having a hard time. Becky Lou Leisha stared at Chen Zhao seriously, capturing all the changes in his expression. Unfortunately, to her disappointment, Chen Zhao didn't look like he was having a hard time at all. He was definitely pretending. He wanted to trick her. Now that the stone ball's weight had doubled, it was impossible for him to not feel anything. He was forcing himself. Becky Lou Leisha worked even harder at increasing the weight of the stone ball. The diameter of the stone ball increased from 40 to 50, then from 50 to 60. Becky Lou Leisha looked relaxed. The power came from the island anyway. She was just a porter, so she didn't feel any pressure. She also believed that Chen Zhao wouldn't be able to last long. Chapter 3183. The stone ball grew larger and larger. Becky Lou Leisha's expression changed from initial pride to confusion. And now, he couldn't believe it. The stone ball's diameter was already more than 100 meters and its weight had increased by more than 10 times. But the ball was still as steady as a mountain, floating above Chen Zhao's head. If that's all, I'm afraid your wish to eliminate me, the traitor, will fail. Chen Zhao smiled at Becky Lou Leisha. Becky Lou Leisha's expression grew even worse. Chen Zhao suddenly raised his hand. Becky Lou Leisha jumped in fright. She thought that Chen Zhao was going to attack. Her subordinates behind her also looked at Chen Zhao nervously. But just then, the stone ball suddenly rose into the air. In the blink of an eye, it flew out of sight. Before they could heave a sigh of relief, Chen Zhao said, "This stone ball will be affected by gravity at an altitude of 3 million meters and start accelerating. When it lands, it will reach Mach 10 per second. Do you know what that means?" Everyone's expression changed. They weren't physicists and couldn't calculate the value of the acceleration. But they were certain that if the stone ball landed on the island, they would die for sure. Perhaps the entire island would be destroyed. You have about 10 minutes to escape. Chen Zhao looked at Becky Lou Leisha. Ms. Becky, do you think eliminating me is more important? Or is escaping more important? Becky Lou Leisha was panicking inside, but she still looked calm on the surface. You can't scare me. Becky Lou Lisha looked at Qin Zhao calmly, trying to find some doubt on his face. I don't know what method you used to make the stone ball disappear, but there's no way you could throw it 3,000 kilometers into the sky. They can't calculate it, but I know how much power is needed to throw it 3,000 kilometers. If you have that much power, you don't need to play tricks like this. You can kill us all directly. Becky Larissa paused, and then added, and most importantly, according to what you said, throwing the stone ball to a height of 3,000 kilometers and then dropping it down vertically, although the power is terrifying, you won't be able to escape. I don't think you will commit suicide, so there's only one possibility. What you did just now was just a smokescreen. Hearing Becky Lou Lisha's words, her men all heaved a sigh of relief. It made sense. If Qin Zhao could really throw the stone ball 3,000 kilometers into the sky, his power would be unbelievably great. If he was really that powerful, all of them combined wouldn't be enough to kill him. Qin Zhao didn't even need to waste time. He could kill them all by himself. Thus, they were certain that Qin Zhao was bluffing. However, Gaia and the others were looking at Becky Lou Lisha with a strange gaze. They knew that Qin Zhao really had that kind of power. Suddenly, Becky Lou Lisha's confident expression froze. She received a warning from the island. Danger! Something was going to fall on the island. Extreme danger. Becky Lou Lisha raised her head and vaguely saw a dark red dot of light dragging a tail across the sky, heading straight for the island they were on. At first, it was still very small, but it was very conspicuous. Other than Becky Lou Lisha, the others slowly noticed the falling meteorite. At this moment, everyone's expression changed drastically. Qin Zhao wasn't joking. There was a hint of a smile on Qin Zhao's face. Becky Lou Lisha gritted her teeth. Let's go. With that, Becky Lou Lisha turned around and left without any reluctance. Qin Zhao didn't stop them either. Chen, why didn't you stop them? They must have found the path to the next island or the key. If we want to go there, we need to follow them. Everyone understood. No wonder Qin Zhao hadn't done anything when Becky Lou Lisha provoked him. After leaving with the others, Becky Lou Lisha hurried to the coast. Boss, what should we do now? If that stone ball falls, we'll all die. Shut up. Becky Lou Lisha's expression was cold. Only the traitors will die. Becky Lou Lisha closed her eyes, but she still walked forward. Everyone exchanged glances. Seeing Becky Lou Lisha's strange way of traveling, they were all confused. Sure. She's using a special spell to find something. There were still people who noticed the reason why Becky Lou Lisha closed her eyes and hurried along. Everyone hurried and followed Becky Lou Lisha closely. Suddenly, Becky Lou Lisha opened her eyes. There was a hole in the ground before them. Becky Lou Lisha stood before the hole. It wasn't very big. It was less than 3 meters in diameter, but it was so deep that they couldn't see the bottom. Without hesitation, Becky Lou Lisha stepped forward. With one step, she stepped into the air and fell into the hole. Everyone looked at each other, hesitating. Xianjing thought for a moment and then stepped into the hole. After some hesitation, everyone finally chose to go in. The moment they fell into the hole, they realized that there was light around them. The flowing light wrapped around their bodies and completely enveloped them. They felt that their movements were completely controlled by the light. Apart from the light, they couldn't see anything else. The scene was as beautiful as a painting. It was as if they were standing in a sky full of stars. But this scene didn't last for long. They felt a huge tearing force, as if the light was going to tear their bodies apart. Thankfully, they'd cast a magic shield on themselves before jumping down. The tearing force was strong, but they could still resist it. Then there was the illusion of being upside down and moving backwards and forwards. Under this environment and perception, everyone lost their sense of direction. Time also became blurry. After an unknown amount of time, everyone suddenly felt suffocated. When they opened their eyes again, they realized that they were really suffocating.
Because they were actually underwater. They flopped to the surface. Thankfully, the water wasn't deep. It was less than 10 meters deep. Everyone floated to the surface and gasped for air. After getting enough oxygen, they finally had the energy to observe their surroundings. They were at a huge lake surrounded by a forest. The lake was like a huge jewel embedded in the forest. The scenery was breathtakingly beautiful. There were a few unknown animals playing and drinking by the lake. Everyone didn't care about their fatigue. They either swam to the shore or used magic to quickly leave the center of the lake.
Chapter 3184. When they reached the shore, they realized that more than half of the people were gone. Becky Lou Leish's expression was dark. Do the people who jumped into the tunnel after you know what happened? Didn't the missing people follow? No, they did. AI Chile was before me. I remember, and so was Luke. Then why are there so many people? There had been more than 20 people, but now, at least 10 were gone. Becky Lou Leisha didn't understand, and the others obviously didn't either. At the same time, a dozen kilometers away, a woman stood up with difficulty. AI Chile's foot was broken. She fell from the sky. Chen Zhao also fell with her. Right now, AI Chile's face was filled with fear. After all, she knew that she definitely couldn't beat Chen Zhao. But Chen Zhao wasn't interested in AI Chile at all. As soon as he landed, he began to observe his surroundings. His little heaven and earth was completely suppressed. This was something that had never happened before. His little heaven and earth had actually been suppressed to a diameter of 10 meters. Chen Zhao tried to spread it out. But every time it spread, an even stronger force would counterattack. Chen Zhao was curious. Where did the force come from and what form did it exist? It could actually suppress his small world. Then, he checked his internal world. It wasn't affected. It was still operating normally. This should be the second stop of Treasure Island. But Gaia, Familotti, Old Ank, and Robert were all missing. They'd jumped into the tunnel with him. But there seemed to be a fork in the tunnel. As a result, they were separated the moment they came out. Chen Zhao tried to fly, but the moment he did, another huge force smashed into him, smashing him to the ground again. It wasn't impossible to fly. He just had to withstand the force. Chen Zhao could do it, but the situation was unclear. He didn't want to waste his energy. Chen Zhao glanced at AI Chile, who was looking at him in fear. Seeing that Chen Zhao's attention was on her, the hair on her lower body stood on end. Are you scared of me? Chen Zhao asked calmly. AI Chile didn't reply, but she was screaming crazily in her heart. Isn't this obvious? I'm facing a monster like you, and we're enemies. It would be strange if he wasn't afraid. I've never killed a single person. Why are you afraid of me? AI Chile didn't agree with him. Not having killed and being able to kill were two different things. Any creature would be afraid of an existence that could kill them. Everything in human society was built on a sense of security. This was the customary safety contract, which was also the law. Once the law loses its binding force. For example, at this moment, after losing the restraints of the law, AI Chile naturally felt fear. Because humans don't believe in moral restraint. Chen Zhao could easily kill her without anyone noticing. Alright, where's your companion? I mean, where did Becky and Lulisha go? Chen Zhao asked. I don't know. I didn't arrive much earlier than you. You arrived a few minutes after I landed. Forget it. Chen Zhao shook his head. Then, good luck. Chen Zhao planned to leave, even though he knew that Ai Chili's foot was broken and couldn't move easily. However, him staying here would only make her more uneasy. So, he decided to leave. Anyway, she wasn't an ordinary person. Even if she couldn't move freely, she could still walk. She should be able to move. But after a few steps, Chen Zhao stopped. Countless small monsters had appeared on the surrounding cliffs, as well as the road in front, behind, left, and right. They weren't big, only the size of a basketball, but there were countless of them. Their bodies were round, with short limbs and a small tail. Their spherical bodies had a large mouth. They didn't have eyes, noses, or ears, only mouths. Ai Chili stood up with difficulty. Her face was pale. Obviously, it was impossible for her to deal with these unknown monsters by herself. Whoosh, whoosh, the sounds made by these little monsters were very strange. But they didn't have ears, so Chen Zhao didn't know how they communicated. More and more monsters made the same sound. Then they started rolling toward Chen Zhao and Ai Kirilenko. Their short little legs looked rather redundant. When they moved, they mostly relied on their round bodies to roll. Moreover, once they started rolling, so did a whole group of them. Ai Chili was the first to lose control. She shook her arms, revealing a pair of red and blue energy swords. The small monsters rushed in front of Aikili, who also brandished her two swords. These little monsters were like melons and fruits, easily chopped and chopped by Ai Chili. When they were cut open, their bodies didn't spurt out blood and flesh. Instead, they disintegrated like gravel. Ai Chili's attacks were very efficient. In the blink of an eye, dozens of monsters were killed. But facing the endless monsters, Ai Chili's performance was insignificant. Her performance seemed insignificant. Soon, a small monster broke through Aikili's defense and bit her arm. Tears streamed down Ai Chili's face from the pain. She tore off the monster and smashed it away. However, in that short period of time, even more monsters broke through her line of defense. The attack power of these small monsters was relatively weak. But there were too many of them. Chen Zhao waved his hand and many black balls appeared around him. But he immediately realized that the quality of the black balls was far from what they'd been in the past. Creating the black balls relied on the small world to absorb the surrounding matter. But now, the small world had been compressed to less than 10 meters in diameter. This meant that the small world could only absorb pitifully little matter. Moreover, the number of small black balls had also decreased sharply. Creating dozens of small black balls at once was already the limit. Compared to the past, which could easily create tens of thousands, it was thousands of times worse. There was also a weakness, which was the distance the black balls could control. In the past, as long as it was within the small world, the black balls could control the direction at will. But now, Chen Zhao could casually throw the black balls out of the small world. He couldn't control them at will anymore. Of course, even though the quantity, quality, and distance were much worse, it was still more than enough to deal with these monsters. Dozens of black balls shot out and exploded a second time. Thousands of monsters were turned to dust. At the same time, he helped Ai Chili out. Chen Zhao glanced at Ai Chili. If you don't want to die, you better get closer. Ai Chili didn't want to come into contact with Chen Zhao. But now, she had to temporarily rely on Chen Zhao. Chapter 3185. Ai Chili saw that she'd only managed to kill 100 or so monsters despite being covered in wounds. But Qin Zhao had casually killed thousands of monsters. She couldn't accept the difference. But what else could she do? Qin Zhao had the power. Plus, she had to accept his protection. Qin Zhao strolled over to AI Chili. Can you walk by yourself? AI Chili's ankle had been broken, but she could endure the pain and walk around. Yes, as long as you don't go too fast, AI Chili said. Then follow me. Qin Zhao waved his hand again and thousands of small monsters were destroyed. However, these thousands of monsters were nothing compared to the total number of monsters in the world. At first, AI Chili was worried that Qin Zhao wouldn't be able to keep going. With Qin Zhao's method, he could easily use ultimate moves. It was indeed a shocking sight, and its lethality was also very great. In a short while, he'd killed almost 100,000 monsters. But AI Chili stopped worrying after a while. Because Qin Zhao used ultimate moves too easily, he released them as he walked. A few, dozens, hundreds of ultimate moves. It was as if they were free. The ground had completely changed along the way. She felt that Qin Zhao was hiding a fully armed army on him. And one that had unlimited ammo too. But she didn't know if it was just her imagination. AI Chili kept feeling that there were more and more monsters around. This made her doubt whether these little monsters could be killed all at once. Mr. Qin, why don't we change our route? The number of these monsters hasn't decreased at all since we started walking down this path. Why should it decrease? I purposely chose this path. Huh? Why? Because there are more monsters here. You. AI Chili was speechless. She really didn't understand what Qin Zhao was trying to do. Why do you have to find the direction with more monsters? I want to see where they come from, Qin Zhao said honestly. Qin Zhao was suspicious of the monsters' origins. They shouldn't be normal life forms. At least, not the life forms Qin Zhao knew. Qin Zhao and AI Chili walked for almost an hour. The monsters around them could no longer be described with numbers. It was impossible to count them, and the small monsters could only be described as a tide. That's right, it was a tide. The small monsters were piled up together, and there was no space on the ground at all. Their movements were completely linked. If one of them moved, all of them would move. AI Chili was pale with fright. These small monsters were individually very weak. But when the number reached such a level, it was impossible. All individual flaws and weaknesses become insignificant. Their numbers would make up for everything. Qin Zhao formed a dark red neutron star. Although the power of the dark red neutron star was not as strong as it was in its normal state. However, it was still extremely lethal to these small monsters. Bang! AI Chili was thrown to the ground by the shock wave. As for the small monsters that were like a tidal wave, they were all dead or injured. When AI Kelly looked again, all that was left on the ground was a large pit of lava that had yet to cool down. The ground at the center of the explosion had already melted. With a calm expression, Qin Zhao said, "Keep going." However, it did not take long before more small monsters gathered over. Akili was close to despair. Anyone would be helpless in such a situation. AI Kelly looked at Qin Zhao, but Qin Zhao was still indifferent. Another dark red neutron star exploded in the center of the small monsters. It had the same effect. Hundreds of thousands of small monsters were wiped out by the explosion. AI Kelly had gone from shock to numbness. The big move at the beginning seemed to be just a normal attack. This was probably the real big move. But Qin Zhao could actually use it twice in a row. AI Kelly thought. But not long after, Qin Zhao used it for the third and fourth time. Suddenly, a thought popped up in AI Kelly's head. This kind of attack couldn't be one of his normal attacks, right? Chen Zhao did not stop to answer AI Kelly's question. They came to a huge canyon. AI Kelly opened her mouth and stared ahead in shock. She was not shocked by the huge canyon. Instead, she was shocked by the piles of small monsters in the canyon. The canyon was about 100 meters tall and dozens of meters wide. It was filled with small monsters. 10 million. It was probably 10 times more. There were too many. Large numbers of small monsters surged out of the canyon. There was no way the ecology of this island could support so many small monsters. So, Chen Zhao was even more certain of his guess. They were not normal creatures. Chen Zhao clenched his fists. AI Kelly felt her scalp go numb. Was Chen Zhao planning to attack the dense crowd of small monsters directly? Would it cause a chain reaction? If so many small monsters surged over, even Chen Zhao would not be able to handle it, right? But Chen Zhao clearly did not have AI Kelly's worries. Mr. Chen, don't you think we should think about it carefully? So many small monsters. It's too dangerous. No. You're the only one in danger, Chen Zhao said calmly. AI Kelly opened her mouth, unable to speak for a long time. Forget it. Let this asterisk shoal die. AI Kelly knew that she could not persuade Chen Zhao. AI Kelly saw that Chen Zhao's body was dyed black. It was filled with an ominous and disturbing color. The next moment, Chen Zhao swung his fists. Countless fish shadows flew toward the canyon. In that instant, the earth shook and the sky cracked. Each fish shadow was filled with boundless destructive power. Each fist landing on the pile of small monsters was like hitting tofu pudding. The small monsters were sent flying everywhere. The walls on both sides of the canyon were smashed into pieces. AI Kelly opened her mouth wide, her expression completely frozen. She stared at Chen Zhao, dumbfounded. Was he even human? Chen Zhao was still expressionless, but the number of small monsters in the canyon was beyond his imagination. After the fish shadows landed on the pile of small monsters, they passed through hundreds of meters, but they still did not reach the end. The entire canyon was probably more than 10 kilometers long. If the entire canyon was completely filled with little monsters, there would probably be more than 10 billion little monsters here. Even Chen Zhao was shocked by this shocking number. Of course, the number of small monsters was shocking. But they were individually determined. No matter how many of them there were, they could not threaten Chen Zhao. Punch after punch, Chen Zhao killed who knew how many small monsters. But there was no obvious decrease in the number of small monsters in the canyon. Chen Zhao stopped punching. Instead, he used dark lava to pour into the canyon. The dark lava transformed into countless blades, madly killing the small monsters. But even the dark magma couldn't effectively kill these little monsters. AI Kelly had long been stunned by Chen Zhao's terrifying destructive power. Chapter 3186. Chen Zhao was a monster through and through. She vaguely understood why old Ankh and Robert had chosen to stand on Chen Zhao's side. They definitely knew about Chen Zhao's background. That was why they were so determined to stand on Chen Zhao's side. If Becky Lu Lisha had led them into a conflict with Chen Zhao. If Chen Zhao was really determined to eliminate them. In that case, it was very likely that they would be completely annihilated. There was no second possibility. But she was also confused. Chen Zhao had the ability to easily eliminate all of them. Why didn't he do that? Don't talk about morals or laws. Not many people who would come with Becky Lu Lisha would follow the law. Chen Zhao seemed to be annoyed by this meaningless battle. If the small world could operate freely, Chen Zhao directly used a dark red neutron star at full power. In the blink of an eye, he could clear all the small monsters in the canyon in front of him, and he could even flatten the entire canyon. But Chen Zhao's small world was completely suppressed. Many moves attached to the small world were weakened. For example, the dark red neutron star and normal neutron star. Chen Zhao used the 5th level of the primordial regression technique. The moment Chen Zhao used his full power, the small world was also released. The strange suppressive power also disintegrated. Shock flashed in Achilles' eyes. Chen Zhao suddenly felt her hair stand on end. It was almost an instinctive feeling. She felt like she was sitting on a pile of bombs. This was a very bad feeling. Chen Zhao raised his arm and pointed his palm in the direction of the canyon. The next moment, a terrifying suction force appeared in the sky above the canyon. Rocks, dust, air, and monsters were all torn apart by the terrifying suction force. Achille couldn't even stand steadily. She was almost pulled into the air by the suction force. Chen Zhao grabbed Achille with one hand. Only then did Achille stand still. She looked above the canyon. The matter that was gathered to a point by the suction force didn't get bigger and bigger. It seemed like no matter how many things gathered, there was only one point. More and more matter was sucked in. The monsters piled up in the canyon below were sucked into the air like a flood, merging into that point. The canyon that had been full of monsters was shrinking at a visible rate. Moreover, the canyon was getting bigger and bigger, and a lot of rocks were being sucked away. Finally, a stone platform appeared in the canyon. On the stone platform was a basketball-sized emerald pearl. Just like the red orb hidden in the depths of the Medusa's cave on the first island. At this moment, a figure flashed past. Becky Lou Lisha appeared out of nowhere and dashed towards the emerald orb. At the same time, he shouted, "Stop him!" Chile's expression was a little strange. Block Chen Zhao. Becky Lou Lisha's men. Those people could also tell that Chen Zhao was very strong. If they fought with Chen Zhao, it would be difficult for them to win even if they all attacked together. So, he was only a few meters away from Chen Zhao, blocking his way. Becky Lou Lisha held the emerald pearl tightly in her hands. Chile glanced at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't seem to plan on stopping Becky Lou Lisha from gaining control of the island. Becky Lou Lisha was very nervous. She had followed that feeling all the way here. Coincidentally, Chen Zhao was present. She was afraid that Chen Zhao would also try to snatch control of the emerald pearl from her. She originally thought that no one would be faster than her. The little monsters along the way did not attack her at all. Perhaps it was because she had the aura of the first island. She also felt that the aura of these little monsters was very familiar. Becky Lou Lisha looked behind her. His subordinates didn't attack Chen Zhao. No, more accurately, Chen Zhao didn't fight with her subordinates. He just stood there and looked at her with a strange expression. He doesn't know what he's doing. In other words, he was confident that even if he gained control of the island, he would not be able to do so. Even I can't defeat him. Well, in theory, that was indeed the case. Becky Lou Lisha glared at Clay, then retracted her attention and focused on sending her mana into the emerald pearl. Chile was helpless. It seemed that she had become a member of Chen Zhao's faction. She knew that it didn't matter if she betrayed Becky Lou Lisha or not. With her narrow-minded personality, she would definitely not tolerate him. What Becky Lou Lisha worried about for a long time did not happen. Chen Zhao didn't stop her from taking control of the island. After Becky Lou Lisha gained control of the island, she didn't know what to do. She found that her strength had increased. This made her eager to give it a try. He wanted to challenge Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao could guess Becky Lou Lisha's intentions. He just glanced at Becky Lou Leisha casually. If you attack me again, you will die. Becky Lou Leisha's expression was cold. She finally calmed down. Even though she felt that she had become stronger. But he still wasn't confident he could defeat Qin Zhao. Thus, he temporarily suppressed his hatred and waited for the right time to take revenge. Let's go. Becky Larissa left with her men. Ai Chili glanced at Becky Lou Leisha and the others who were leaving. She could clearly feel that Becky Lou Leisha had become stronger again. If she could feel it, there was no reason Qin Zhao couldn't. Why did you let her obtain control over the Emerald Pearl? You should understand. You made her stronger, and with Becky Lou Leisha's personality, she won't resolve the grudge between you and her. As long as she becomes strong enough, she will take revenge on you. Of course I know. Qin Zhao shrugged. Then why did you? I need a guide to the next stop. She's a good choice. Even if you need a guide, you don't need to choose your enemy, right? Ai Chili was even more confused. There was no reason Qin Zhao didn't know such a simple logic. Even if you choose me to control it, it's better than her. At least I won't take revenge on you. Ha! Do you think that thing is good? Do you think it will give you great power out of nowhere? The world is fair. When you gain something, you will also lose something. Even if I lose something, it'll be worth it for such great power. What if it's your self-awareness? Ai Chili was shocked. What? Self-awareness. The power she received isn't a gift. It's just a loan. If she gathers all the power, it'll be the moment she loses herself. Chapter 3187. Ai Chili frowned. She felt that Qin Zhao was planning something too. She was even more terrified now, more so than before. She knew the difference between her and Qin Zhao very well. Qin Zhao's plan was definitely not something she could participate in. She had no choice but to follow Qin Zhao now. If anything went wrong, she would die for sure. Qin Zhao put away the normalizing technique. The pressure came from all directions again. The small world was compressed and shrunk again. Just then, a huge black shadow fell from the sky. Qin Zhao looked up. It was Gaia in her dragon form. Old Ankh, Robert, and Famirati were on Gaia's back. It seemed that they had to hide in the sky to avoid the small monsters. Gaia, how did you find us? Qin Zhao asked. Logically speaking, if his small world was being suppressed, their senses would be greatly restricted too. Of course. You made such a big commotion here. Even a blind person can see what's going on here. Gaia rolled her eyes. Oh, you can fly. Gaia looked at Qin Zhao with a strange expression. I can fly in my dragon form. What's so strange about that? She even suspected that Qin Zhao was an imposter. How could he ask such a stupid question? Qin Zhao scratched his head. The suppression couldn't just be directed at him, right? You guys aren't being suppressed by the island. Are you? Gaia looked back at the others. Do you feel suppressed? Not at all. All three of them gave the same answer. Qin Zhao looked at Ai Chili. Do you feel suppressed? No. Ai Chili also answered the same. Strange, then why am I the only one being suppressed? Ai Chili was speechless. Is this your strength after being suppressed? It feels like you're going to explode soon. Qin Zhao was depressed, not because he was being suppressed, but because he was being targeted. Being targeted for no reason, no one would be happy about it. If everyone was suffering, Qin Zhao would feel much better. But now, Qin Zhao was the only one suffering. He felt that it was unfair. What's that? Gaia pointed at the emerald pearl in the center of the valley. At this time, the small monsters began to appear again. They had already gathered on the canyon floor. In less than an hour, the small monsters would once again fill the entire canyon. Chen Zhao started again, clearing out the small monsters that he had just accumulated. That thing is controlling this island. I don't know what it is exactly. Chen Zhao walked up to check the emerald pearl. Can you tell what it's made of? Crystal. It doesn't seem like it. The echo is crisper, and it seems to be very hard. Gaia knocked hard on the emerald pearl, but it was not damaged at all. All crystal. It's also not. Everyone touched it and knocked it, but they couldn't figure out what this emerald pearl was made of. Chen Zhao reached out and squeezed hard. Cracks instantly appeared on the emerald pearl. Everyone stared at Chen Zhao in shock. It's indeed very hard, Chen Zhao said honestly. Everyone was speechless. How could you say such a thing after crushing it? They had no idea how much strength Chen Zhao had used to crack the emerald pearl. In terms of strength, it would not be an exaggeration to say that it could split mountains and split seas. Budweiser at this moment, the cracks actually healed up. Not long after, the crack disappeared. It can actually repair itself. Chen Zhao was somewhat surprised. He felt that the moment it repaired itself, the emerald pearl was filled with thick life energy. This emerald pearl was definitely not a living thing. Life force was something that only living beings possessed. Setting aside the composition of this emerald pearl, where did the life energy come from? Chen Zhao held the emerald pearl with both hands, wanting to pull it off the stone platform. However, the combination of the pearl and the stone platform was stronger than he had imagined. Chen Zhao increased his strength. The pearl and the stone platform still did not move at all. Clearly, Chen Zhao would not admit defeat so easily. He increased his strength again. Slowly, the ground began to shake more and more violently. Chen Zhao increased his strength again. Just then, everyone was forced back by Chen Zhao's aura. Chen Zhao's body emitted a heavy pressure. Everyone found it difficult to even breathe. The ground under Chen Zhao's feet cracked. Chen Zhao's strength was still increasing. The surrounding canyon walls seemed to be torn apart by some power. This power was still wreaking havoc on the entire island. The ground was torn apart and the entire island was in a state of turmoil. It seemed like it could sink at any moment. Everyone was a bit frightened. Chen Zhao's battle with the Emerald Pearl continued. The island was on the verge of collapsing at any moment. At the same time, Becky Lu Lisha and the others at the edge of the island also noticed the drastic changes. Especially Becky Lu Lisha, she felt it the most. Originally, she had just obtained the power of the small island and was feeling a little high-spirited. But at this moment, the power that was originally supporting her suddenly weakened. She could clearly feel that the island was under some kind of attack. It was Chen Zhao. It had to be him. Becky Lu Lisha immediately blamed Chen Zhao for what had happened on the island. However, her guess was not wrong. The violent shaking grew stronger. Right now, everyone felt like they were bugs in a bottle that was being shaken by a huge hand. Chen, stop. Ugh! Gaia shrieked. You'll kill us all. The cracked ground was already spewing out scorching lava. Chen Zhao looked back at everyone. Right now, Gaia and the others were all lying on the ground in pain. The surrounding terrain had completely changed. The canyon had disappeared, and the broken ground was filled with boiling magma. Chen Zhao finally gave up on the idea of taking the pearl away. Unless he risked everyone else's lives. Chen Zhao could clearly feel that the bottom of the pearl was connected to something. When he tried to lift the emerald pearl, a huge force appeared below the Emerald Pearl. It kept pouring out the pearl to fight against Qin Zhao. That force was connected to the entire island. Qin Zhao was fighting against the pearl, but in reality, he was fighting against the entire island. Mr. Qin, there's an underground tunnel. Akili discovered a crack in the ground. Qin Zhao thought for a moment and still entered the tunnel. The others followed. There were broken walls everywhere in the tunnel. Many places had completely collapsed. However, Qin Zhao opened a path with brute force. Everything in his way, be it rocks or earth, was destroyed. Chapter 3188. Not long after, a huge heart appeared in front of everyone. The huge heart was wrapped in a layer of rock. But it was still beating vigorously. Everyone stared in awe at the gigantic heart in front of them. It was probably more than 500 meters in diameter and it hung in the air. What did a heart with a diameter of 500 meters mean? It was about the length of 5 soccer fields. It wasn't a heart at all. It was more like a mountain. Every heartbeat was like a clap of thunder. What kind of heart is this? Qin Zhao narrowed his eyes and looked at the huge heart. Here, Qin Zhao felt even more suppressed. He even felt like he couldn't move. The huge heart was resisting him. They both knew each other's existence and strength. Of course, this heart alone was clearly not enough to stop Qin Zhao. Ignoring the giant heart's resistance, Qin Zhao strode forward firmly and forcefully. He walked toward the huge heart. Suddenly, the surroundings changed. The original cave had disappeared and turned into a vast plain. Qin Zhao grabbed a handful of grass and rubbed it. He rubbed it hard. It's real, not an illusion. Or could it be that the illusions could even deceive his own senses? The others also stared at the scene in shock. They were also wondering if it was real or an illusion. If it wasn't an illusion, how did they get here? Teleportation. It wasn't teleportation. At least Qin Zhao knew what teleportation felt like. Plus, he didn't think that it could teleport him to a strange place like this. Qin Zhao tossed out a small black ball. The black ball didn't explode until it flew more than 10 kilometers away. Strange, this really wasn't the cave. The cave with the huge heart was big, but it was only a few hundred meters in diameter. Where exactly is this? Gaia asked. Qin Zhao looked into the distance. There was a cloud of dust on the horizon of the plain. Something seemed to be sweeping toward them. Little monster. Everyone looked at the thing that had rolled out. They could see it clearly now. But, when that thing came closer and closer, they realized that the little monster wasn't small. The closer they got, the bigger the monster became. Apart from the same appearance, it was tens of thousands of times bigger. There was also a shocking amount of it. Although it didn't fill up the entire canyon like when they were in the canyon. However, at this moment, these little monsters were spread across the entire horizon of the plain. It was as if it wanted to cover the entire vast plain. They still charged fearlessly toward Qin Zhao's group. Everyone looked worried and looked at Qin Zhao at the same time. Qin Zhao stood at the very front, unmoving. However, Qin Zhao's gaze wasn't on the incoming horde of monsters. Qin Zhao kept looking up, down, left and right, as if he was searching for something. Suddenly, he turned around. No one understood why Qin Zhao would turn around now. The enemy was right in front. You're not thinking of escaping, are you? Qin Zhao lifted his arm and pointed at the crowd. Scale literature, move aside. The crowd didn't understand Qin Zhao's intentions, but they still listened to him and made way. A small black ball shot out in their direction. Pop, the little black ball flew hundreds of meters away. The entire world shattered like a mirror. After the broken module fell, everyone found that the environment had changed back to the original cave. But when they looked again, there was only a stone shell left of the giant heart. The heart itself was gone. What's going on? It ran away. Chen Zhao shrugged, a bit disappointed and helpless. That place just now, was that an illusion? No, that's a real place, Chen Zhao said. An alternate world. We were teleported to an alternate world. It's not really an alternate world. Chen Zhao didn't say much. They wouldn't understand even if he explained. That wasn't an alternate world. After all, even if someone could really teleport them to an alternate world, it was impossible that they didn't notice it at all. That wasn't teleportation at all. It was covering. Someone had used a world to cover the original world. There was only one possibility to do this, covering the real world with an inner world. It was just like how Chen Zhao could release his inner world. That was a type of release. However, that existence's inner world was completely different from Chen Zhao's. Chen Zhao's inner world was a world of flames. That existence's inner world was a vast plain. But that existence's inner world wasn't complete. Half of it was an inner world that could be passed off as real, while the other half was an illusion. In other words, the one behind them was actually fake. After the existence's inner world covered them, everyone doubted whether that world was real. Even Chen Zhao was the same. So, at the start, everyone used their own methods to test it. Later on, Chen Zhao found a loophole. All the movements in that world appeared in front of them. The direction of the monsters, the direction of the wind, the direction of the light, and the density of the spiritual qi were all in that direction. Behind them, there were no changes at all. It felt almost the same as when they were in the cave. Chen Zhao started to doubt it, which was why he tested it a second time. As expected, Chen Zhao found that the world they were in was half real and half fake. However, that existence didn't want to defeat Chen Zhao. His main goal was to stall for time and let himself, or rather, let his heart escape. He had to admit that he succeeded. He only managed to stall for a short while. In less than 10 minutes, the heart escaped. Don't ask how the heart escaped. A heart that was hundreds of meters long was already in existence that defied common sense. So, it was even more unsurprising that the heart could escape on its own. Chen Zhao was somewhat disappointed. His carelessness had let the heart escape. However, before the first confrontation, who would have thought that a heart could have so many tricks up its sleeve? Chen Zhao had thought that a mere heart was like meat on the chopping board. Even if it had unimaginable power, it couldn't even be crushed with one hand. But in the end, he was humiliated in front of everyone and the heart escaped. Just then, the empty shell of the heart suddenly changed shape and turned into a giant rock beast. Boom! One strike. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The giant rock beast was formed from the shallow power left behind by the heart. Whether it was to the heart or to Chen Zhao, it was too small and insignificant. It didn't even have the right to stall for time. Everyone was dazed. When they saw Chen Zhao defeat the giant rock beast with one strike, they found it hard to accept, but it was reasonable. They'd hoped for an earth-shattering battle, but it didn't happen. Chapter 3189. When everyone returned to the ground, they suddenly saw a huge shadow on the surface of the sea amidst the storm. It's the third island. Chen Zhao's vision was the best. He could see the island and the storm at first glance. Doesn't the third island need a special path? Chen Zhao shrugged. Even if I reveal my location, I need a special path. I can't fly now. Even if Gaia transforms into her dragon form, she can't pass through the stormy sea. I can do it, Gaia said stubbornly. She had her own stubbornness. Chen Zhao shrugged. His senses were suppressed to the limit, but he could still sense the violent aura in the sea ahead. It wasn't a normal storm. It was like the entire world was filled with all kinds of magic. A normal person would be torn to pieces if they went near the edge. Even spiritualists couldn't go in. Moreover, the distance between the third island and the second island was very large. One could vaguely see the third island. In reality, the two were thousands of kilometers apart. With Gaia's power, she couldn't even cross 1/10 of the distance. Only Chen Zhao could force his way through the stormy sea. But in that environment, even he couldn't protect the others. Gaia didn't know the situation. If she did, she wouldn't have lied. Let's go find a guide. The guide Chen Zhao was talking about was naturally Becky Lu Lisha. Mr. Chen, did you do something to Becky Lu Lisha? Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Isn't that obvious? Actually, at the first island, Chen Zhao had secretly thrown a small puddle of dark lava on Becky Lu Lisha. So, Chen Zhao basically knew Becky Lu Lisha's movements. As long as Chen Zhao sensed the puddle of dark lava, then Chen Zhao would know Becky Lu Lisha's route on the island. Becky Lu Lisha basically couldn't sense the existence of the dark lava. But even if she did, she couldn't do anything about it. Once you touched that thing, you'd be stuck to it. It wouldn't be easy to get rid of it. Following the path of the dark lava, Chen Zhao found the transportation point to the third stop. They entered the passage and came to the third stop. This time, they weren't forcefully separated. When everyone arrived at the third island, they habitually began to inspect their surroundings. Unlike the first two islands, the environment of the third island was extremely harsh. The sun in the sky was very low, and there were two of them. That was definitely not the sun in the conventional sense. They were two huge fireballs. As a result, the temperature on the island is very high. However, what was surprising was that the island was still covered in plants despite the high temperature. However, the plants that grew on this island were all red in color. Whether it was the trees or the flowers and plants, almost all of them had red skin. The moment Chen Zhao picked up a bunch of flowers, he felt the terrifying energy in them. They exploded in his hands. Chen Zhao's actions were like pulling the fuse of dynamite. All the plants within a 10-meter radius began to explode. This turn of events startled everyone. They hurriedly used their own defensive methods. Boom, boom, boom. Fortunately, everyone reacted in time. Chen Zhao also extended a helping hand and protected everyone. Therefore, no one was injured. However, after knowing that these plants would explode when they were hurt, everyone's mood was not so good. This almost made it difficult for them to move. After all, in an area filled with plants, stepping on a plant could cause all the surrounding plants to explode. Moreover, these plants were terrifyingly powerful and there were many of them. Moving around here was like walking on a battlefield filled with landmines. Who knew when a large firework would come? Chen Zhao was also helpless. He could only take one step at a time. You guys stand here first. I'll go and clear a safe path. He couldn't help it. Chen Zhao felt an even stronger suppression on the island. Of course, his small world had already been suppressed to 10 meters. No matter how strong the suppression was, it wouldn't make Chen Zhao's small world smaller. After all, no one in this world could take away Chen Zhao's small world. Chen Zhao went forward and detonated the nearby plants first. The others kept their distance and only went forward after the explosions were over. If it was a normal person, they would probably be smashed into pieces after walking a few meters. This environment was almost unsolvable for normal people. These plants seem to belong to the dragon blood family, Gaia said. Chen Zhao turned around and looked at Gaia. Do you recognize these plants? Dragon blood is a very general term. It doesn't refer to a single plant. Usually, it refers to a plant that has the blood of a dragon or fire elemental magical beast stained with it. The plant absorbs the blood and then grows abnormally, Gaia said. But dragon blood plants need a very harsh environment to grow. They usually only grow near volcanoes because they need to absorb large amounts of fire elemental energy. Are these magic materials? Chen Zhao asked. These plants can't be harvested, right? They'll explode if they are harvested. It's not that they can't be harvested. They absorb large amounts of fire elemental energy, so the plants contain large amounts of fire elemental energy. Under normal circumstances, as long as the balance of the fire elemental energy is broken, there will be a violent explosion. But at night, the plants' bodies will start to shrink and stabilize. Under these circumstances, there won't be an explosion. Chen Zhao suddenly thought of an idea. Dark lava spread out and covered the plants in front of him. Chen Zhao created a large shadowy area. Under the shadow, the branches and leaves of the plant started to shrink, just like Starbeck. Chen Zhao carefully picked up a small red plant with dark lava. As expected, there was no explosion. Chen, after harvesting, don't let these plants see the light. Keep them in a dark place. These weren't problems. Chen Zhao started harvesting the plants along the way with dark lava. A moment later, he'd harvested thousands of plants. Are these plants valuable? There has always been a shortage of Dracaena plants on the market. These flowers and plants are sold by the kilogram, and each kilogram can be sold for about $10,000. If it's those medium-sized trees, each one is estimated to be about $200,000. There are also some large plants that are very expensive. There have been several records of them being sold for millions of dollars. Before Chen Zhao, the dragon blood plants that covered the entire mountain were probably a huge source of income. Chen Zhao didn't waste any. He spread dark lava even more. After harvesting them, he stored them in dark lava. Chapter 3190. Everyone was drooling with envy. But apart from drooling, they couldn't snatch it or ask Chen Zhao for a share. What a joke. How could they ask Chen Zhao for a share? Not to mention their abilities, they couldn't even block one of Chen Zhao's ultimate moves even if they combined forces. When Chen Zhao was collecting the dragon blood plants, they didn't even put in any effort. How could they ask Chen Zhao for a share? At the same time, on the other side of the island, Becky Lu Lisha frowned. Those guys are following us again. Xianjing, are you sure you erased all traces before we entered the tunnel? I'm sure. I used a dust concealment spell to erase our auras for at least 30 minutes. No one can follow us. But why can they still follow us less than 10 minutes after we entered the third island? Becky Lu Lisha asked, dissatisfied. Unless they did something to one of us, Xianjing said. Otherwise, I can't think of any other possibility. Becky Lu Lisha's expression darkened. She felt that Xianjing's guess was probably correct. This was the only possibility that Chen Zhao and the others could keep up with their movements. Everyone, check yourselves, Becky Lu Lisha urged. See if anyone was enchanted. Everyone started checking themselves. But no matter how they checked, they didn't find any traces of being enchanted. They were all experts in this field, so they were naturally extra careful. Very few people could be enchanted without anyone noticing. You didn't find it. Everyone shook their heads. Boss, do you think it's possible that you, to everyone, Becky Lu Lisha was the most likely? Because she was the mediocre twin, her knowledge of magic was far inferior to the others. So, if someone chose to cast a tracking spell on one of them, Becky Lou Lisha was undoubtedly the most suitable. I've already checked myself. I didn't find any traces. Xianjing didn't continue suspecting that Becky Lou Lisha had been enchanted. Instead, he changed his train of thought. Maybe it's not magic, but some kind of tracking object. Becky Lou Lisha suddenly fell into deep thought. After a while, she pulled open her sleeve. Look, what's this? There was a small patch of black under Becky Lou Lisha's wrist. This is a birthmark. Becky Lou Lisha shook her head. It was on the first island. I was holding onto a tree and my wrist was scratched by the bark. That's how the black spot appeared. I thought I was poisoned and even asked Corella to take a look. He said it wasn't poisoned, but a bruise. Xianzhang looked for a long time but could not find anything suspicious. After thinking for a while, he said, "How about we cut the skin and see if we can squeeze out the extravasated blood?" Sure. Becky Lou Lisha nodded and agreed to Xianzhang's suggestion. You do it yourself. Compared to the dissension in the team, Lu Lisha trusted Xian more because he had a grudge against Chen Zhao and the others. Xianzheng used a knife to cut open the skin on Becky Lou Lisha's wrist and was about to squeeze out the blood. Suddenly, the black extravasated blood flowed upward without warning. It was as if it had life and consciousness. 000 literature. Becky Lou Lisha and Xianzhang's expressions changed. Xianjing reacted quickly and immediately grabbed the joints of Becky Lou Lisha's arm. He wanted to stop the black substance from moving upward. However, the black substance gradually dissipated and the black spot could no longer be seen on the skin. Just then, Becky Lou Lisha's expression became even more panicked. I can feel it flowing into my body through the blood vessels in my arm. Damn. Think of something. Xianzhang's expression was serious. I'll try to use an essence spell to get rid of that thing. Xianzheng cast a Buddhist bright light seal on Becky Lou Lisha. Becky Lou Lisha felt as if her body was burning. The thing had weakened a lot, but it was not completely removed. It was also very cunning. It was swimming toward Becky Lou Lisha's heart. The next moment, Becky Lou Lisha clearly felt her heart twitch. The thing was actually stuck to her heart. How is it? Damn, it's on my heart now. Keep using that spell and get rid of it. Xianzhang's expression darkened. Becky Lou Lisha panicked. What's wrong? Why aren't you doing it? The Grand Light Seal has a certain lethality to the human body's abdomen. It would be fine if it was in other places or blood vessels, but if it's in the heart. If I continue to use the Grand Light Seal, it will cause certain damage to your heart. Becky Lou Lisha gritted her teeth and looked at Xianzheng. Is there no other way? Boss, if you can control your power well, you can try using your own power to protect your heart. Then I can freely cast the spell. How do I do that? Form a membrane with magic and stick it to the heart. This is more complicated and detailed. But this method was clearly too complicated for Becky Lou Lisha. Becky Lou Lisha had power that far surpassed others. But her control of power was like a primary school student. 1 + 1 might not be a problem for her. However, a complex equation would be too difficult for her. Is there no other way? The active substance isn't strong. Boss, you can try shaking it to death and erasing its activity. Becky Lou Lisha tried using Xianzheng's method again, but the result was still not satisfactory. Xianzheng's methods could be easily done by others, but she couldn't do it in a short time. It must be that asterisk shoal. Becky Lou Lisha trembled in anger. This kind of behavior was simply the greatest humiliation to her. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. Chen Zhao clearly had the power to kill her and everyone else. But he was playing with her like a cat playing with a mouse. At the same time, she secretly complained that Xian Zheng and his other subordinates were all useless. None of them were Chen Zhao's match. They couldn't even break his little tricks. Although a few of them looked normal, they were gloating in their hearts. Becky Lu Lisha's domineering behavior displeased them. They were happy to see Becky Lu Lisha suffer, but they couldn't help her at all. Becky Lu Lisha obviously knew what they were thinking. At the moment, she was also considering how to get rid of the disloyal ones. Chapter 3191. In the past, Becky Lu Lisha had thought that the betrayal of her subordinates only meant that the leader wasn't capable enough. But when Becky Lu Lisha realized that her subordinates were all traitors, she had a mental breakdown. Especially after Chen Zhao, the traitor, rubbed her a few times. Now, she just wanted to kill all the traitors around her. After all, she had one Chen Zhao. She didn't want a second one. One Chen Zhao had already left a serious psychological shadow in her heart. If another one appeared, she would probably explode on the spot. But before that, she needed these traitors to do her a small favor. This was also the reason why she had recruited so many people this time. Of course, she didn't need so many people. She didn't recruit so many people because of their abilities, but just in case. After all, it wasn't a comfortable journey. Dying a few people was within her plans. She was worried that they wouldn't have enough people at the crucial point. So, she specially found a few more tools. Unfortunately, if Chen Zhao's group hadn't betrayed her, her plan wouldn't have been worth tens of thousands. Chen Zhao's group's betrayal wasn't within her plan. Now, she really regretted recruiting Chen Zhao into her team. Chen Zhao was like a ticking time bomb. Although he'd left the team, his powerful abilities were still a constant threat to Becky Lu Lisha and her plan. Also, Chen Zhao's attitude. It wasn't just Chen Zhao's betrayal, but also his unpredictable behavior. It also made Becky Lu Lisha very wary. Becky Lu Lisha rolled down her sleeves and reorganized her emotions. "Forget it," Becky Lu Lisha said calmly. "Even if that traitor is playing tricks behind my back, he can't stop me. His laughable actions are just a joke." Of course, she tried her best to look nonchalant, but she wasn't that calm inside. Moreover, no one thought that Chen Zhao was really that insignificant. Chen Zhao had proven his abilities many times before. Even though he'd gained control of 2 islands and power, Becky Lu Lisha still wasn't Chen Zhao's match. "Follow me." Becky Lu Lisha's team was also surrounded by large numbers of dragon blood plants. Becky Lu Lisha waved her hand. "Back off." A shocking scene appeared. The densely packed dragon blood plants in front of them actually took the initiative to retreat. Everyone was surprised. Becky Lu Lisha definitely wasn't using nature magic. Spirit speech magic. It didn't seem like it. Although no one understood Becky Lu Lisha's magic, they all knew that Becky Lu Lisha had cast a spell. However, this solved their problem. These dragon blood plants were very troublesome. Especially on this island. If it was a Dracaena plant that grew in other places, it would not be able to survive. They could wait until nightfall to pick them. But there was no night here. This place was called the Land of Eternal Light. The 2 suns in the sky did not revolve around the entire world. It would forever occupy the sky above the island. Therefore, these Dracaena plants would endlessly threaten anyone who landed on the island. Stepping on them was like being barbecued in an armory. Now, their biggest problem had disappeared. Becky Lu Lisha easily solved the problem. Everyone followed behind Becky Lu Lisha. She seemed to control the plants effortlessly. He had been using this ability non-stop along the way without any signs of fatigue. 17 Logically speaking, this spell should have consumed a lot of magic power and energy. But Becky Lou Lisha was not tired at all. He didn't know if it was because she had some tricks up her sleeves, or because she was too strong. However, Xianzheng, who was following behind her, started to feel uneasy. Xianzheng was a loyal follower of Becky Lou Lisha in this team. But he didn't want to continue. Because he found a big problem. They were walking into a dangerous area. In the words of Huaxia Feng Shui Master, that was 1,000 machines extinction. 9 out of 10 deaths. Xianzheng was a Buddhist disciple. But he was a Feng Shui master before he shaved his head and became a monk. So the Feng Shui master he mastered was quite good. Boss, are you sure we're going the right way? Becky Lou Lisha looked back at Xianzheng. Is there a problem? This path doesn't seem safe. Why don't we change direction? Change direction. Our destination is this direction. No matter which direction we choose, we have to go to the front. Becky Lou Lisha's eyes showed a hint of dissatisfaction. Was even this baldy going to betray him? Although Xianzheng hadn't clearly betrayed him. But he was starting to doubt himself. Boss, where are we going? Just follow me. Shut up. Becky Lou Lisha scolded impatiently. I don't want to hear a second voice. Do you understand? Xianzheng shut his mouth. He regretted his rashness just now. He had forgotten Becky Lou Lisha's personality. She was stubborn and wouldn't listen to his advice at all. Most importantly, after making Becky Lou Lisha annoyed, he didn't try to stop her. Becky Lou Lisha continued forward with a cold expression. Xianzheng didn't say anything from then on. But he was always on guard along the way. But there weren't any expected dangers along the way. Xianzheng didn't relax. Instead, he became more worried. The reason why a land of death was called a land of death was because it was too dangerous. If there was no danger after entering Death Lands, it wasn't because there was a problem with the Feng Shui. It was because danger was waiting at the end. This kind of Death Land was the most dangerous. All the dangers were hidden in the center of Death Lands. Once the danger erupted, it would be 100 times more dangerous than a normal Death Land. Becky Lou Lisha finally took the lead and stopped. They were in the middle of 2 mountains. There was also a river in front of them, blocking their way. Xianzheng looked up at the 2 blazing suns above his head. He looked around again. The mountains were heavy and the rivers were endless. This was the center of Death Lands. Even dragon blood plants couldn't survive here. There was nothing here apart from the scorching hot rocks. Xianzheng tensed up and observed his surroundings vigilantly. Okay, 4 of you come here, Becky Lou Lisha said. But no one responded to Becky Lou Lisha's order. Becky Lou Lisha looked at everyone. Is no one listening to my orders? Boss, what do you need to do? Xianzheng asked. Positions. Becky Lou Lisha said calmly, the control center of this island is hidden underground. To show it, we need 4 people to stand in positions and output magic. Chapter 3192. Xianzheng knew very well that the most dangerous thing in this place was probably the positions that Becky Lou Lisha had requested. Right now, Xianzheng already regretted standing on Becky Lou Lisha's side. Becky Lou Lisha's mood swings were too hard to please. But Chen Zhao couldn't do anything either. He and Chen Zhao had such a bad relationship. There was almost no chance of reconciliation. Now, he couldn't please either side. Becky Lou Lisha looked at everyone, somewhat dissatisfied. Is no one willing to come? No one responded to Becky Lou Leisha's order. Becky Lou Leisha's domineering behavior along the way. The more she forced everyone to obey her, the more uncomfortable it made people feel. That was why everyone was only obeying her on the surface but disobeying her in secret. No, it had already developed into a blatant confrontation. Then I'll call names, Becky Lou Leisha said indifferently. She scanned everyone present. Becky Lou Leisha pointed out 4 people. However, the 4 of them did not step forward. Lugant, Lil, Stacy, Finans, are you rejecting my order? I reject such an impolite request, Lugant said. You're saying my order is an impolite request. Xianjing remained silent, but he glanced at Lugant out of the corner of his eye. Lugant seemed to know something. You think I don't know? This is the abyss of death. This place is specially used to seal something, to seal evil with evil. You asked us to stand in 4 directions because you want us to sacrifice to the demons of the 4 directions, right? If we have enough magic power, we can barely survive. But if we don't, the demons will devour our life force. When we satisfy the demons' needs, the seal will be undone. As for what is sealed, I'm afraid only you know. Lugant looked at Becky Lou Leisha. Am I right? Becky Lou Leisha. Everyone else was shocked. This was betrayal. They hadn't betrayed Becky Lou Leisha, but Becky Lou Leisha had betrayed them. Everyone stared at Becky Lou Leisha. They needed an explanation. Becky Lou Leisha was also furious. To her, these people had betrayed her. As you said, I only need a little bit of your mana. Your mana can still be recovered. If you can't even satisfy this little bit of mana, then I can only say that I've found the wrong person. Becky Lou Leisha was still high and mighty like before. It was as if all of her decisions were natural. And it was this attitude that was the most unbearable. Although they were hired by Becky Lou Leisha, it didn't mean they had to put their lives in her hands. No matter how righteous you are, it doesn't change the fact that you're trying to sacrifice us, Lugant said firmly. Previously, he had wanted to let it go, but now Becky Lou Leisha had set her sights on him. Moreover, it was blatantly sacrificing them. This was intolerable, and Becky Lou Leisha did not show any signs of remorse. Instead, it was as if it was a matter of course. It was as if they were the ones at fault, not her. I told you, I don't like people going against my will. Becky Lou Leisha stared coldly at Lugant and the other 3. You can choose now. Stand on it yourself, or I'll throw your corpses on it. Just as the 2 sides were about to fight, a patch of darkness covered their heads. Chen Zhao's group had arrived. As if they were shopping, they strolled over under the cover of the dark lava. Becky Lou Leisha's expression changed involuntarily. Her subordinates all had different expressions too. Miss Becky Lou Leisha, what a coincidence. What are you doing? Are you having lunch break? Chen Zhao took the initiative to greet her. Why are you here? Becky Lou Leisha treated Chen Zhao as a great enemy. She was very sensitive about Chen Zhao's appearance here. Ha! Do I need your permission to come here? Are you planning to buy this island? Chen Zhao asked, still nonchalantly. Chen Zhao strolled casually. The dark lava started sweeping the surrounding dragon blood plants again. Becky Lou Leisha was even more furious at Chen Zhao's underestimation of her. Right now, she was like a volcano that was about to erupt. Mr. Chen, this is the abyss of death. There's probably something sealed here, Old Ank said. We better leave quickly. Really? I love seals. Do you know how to undo them? Old Ank's expression was unnatural. Clearly, he knew how to undo the seal. But he was worried that Chen Zhao would do the same thing as Becky Lou Leisha. Sacrifice their lives to undo the seal. If you know, then you know. If you don't know, then you don't know. Why are you wasting time? I know, but it's a bit troublesome. How troublesome? Old Ankh explained the method to undo the seal. It was similar to what Lugant had said earlier. I see. Chen Zhao rubbed his chin. The next moment, he created 3 clones and stood in 3 different directions. Chen Zhao's real body chose one and stood on it. The next moment, large amounts of black gas appeared in all directions. Oh, you can use clones too, Chen Zhao said, smiling. But the others' expressions were unnatural. Mr. Chen, be careful. The black gas is evil. It's formed by the unclean aura in this area. Just then, the dark lava above them suddenly wrapped around the black gas and then merged back into the real body. The black gas kept growing. Every time it was about to condense, the dark lava would swallow it. This went on for a few times. Finally, the ground stopped spewing black gas. Everyone was dumbfounded. They didn't think that the seal of the abyss of death could be undone like this. Just then, the ground shook slightly. An opening opened in the middle of the 4 directions and a stone platform rose up. There was a blue pearl on the platform. It was similar to the red and green pearls on the previous 2 islands. Becky Lu Lisha's eyelids twitched. She didn't think that Chen Zhao could undo the seal so easily. Even if she wanted to be the oriole behind the mantis stalking the cicada, she didn't have enough power. Is this what you're sealing? How disappointing. Chen Zhao shook his head. Miss Becky Lu Lisha, it's for you. Becky Lu Lisha looked at Chen Zhao without any joy on her face. She didn't understand what Chen Zhao was planning. Mr. Chen, I think we had some misunderstandings before. I think we can resolve them and work together again. Sorry, I'm not interested in working with a poisonous snake. I'd rather work with a demon. Becky Lu Lisha's lips trembled in anger. She finally suppressed her anger. Fine, but I still hope that we won't be enemies. Chapter 3193. Not enemies. Be it Chen Zhao or Becky Lu Lisha. Neither of them could tolerate each other's existence. Once there was enmity, they were definitely enemies. Their personalities were like that. Either they didn't interact with each other, or once they did, they were either friends or enemies. Because they knew that the other wouldn't just let it go. Just like what Becky Lu Lisha said, even she herself did not believe it. How could Chen Zhao believe her? However, Chen Zhao had let Becky Lu Lisha control the island twice in a row. This wasn't courtesy anymore. He was giving her benefits. No one would think that it was because Chen Zhao was a nice guy. Chen Zhao gestured for Becky Lu Lisha to leave. How could Becky Lu Lisha communicate with the blue pearl in front of Chen Zhao with peace of mind? She would feel uncomfortable if Chen Zhao was around for a second. Pfft, looks like Miss Becky Lu Lisha can't even eat with me here. Let's go. Mr. Chen, is it convenient for us to go with you? Lugant asked. If you want to leave, I can help, but if you want to go with me. Sorry, I don't like to go with strangers. Chen Zhao had seen Lugant's group and Becky Lu Lisha's argument and tit for tat. However, he couldn't guarantee that it was just a 2-man show between Becky Lu Lisha and the others. If he brought a group of people he didn't trust, Chen Zhao wouldn't be able to resist killing them. For everyone's convenience, Chen Zhao didn't mind opening the door for them. But if they followed him, then forget it. After all, they hadn't chosen a path in the beginning. No one would accept changing their path halfway. Lugant and the others were somewhat disappointed. But Chen Zhao's answer was expected. Chen Zhao came and left in a hurry. It was as if he had specially come to help Becky Lu Lisha solve her problem. Lugant and the others also left with Chen Zhao. It wasn't just the 4 people that Becky Lu Lisha had pointed out earlier who left with Chen Zhao. Apart from Xianjing, everyone else had left. Mr. Chen, do you know how to leave here? Lugant asked. Chen Zhao looked at everyone and then silently grabbed at the air. There was clearly nothing, but it felt very strong. Chen Zhao slowly separated his hands and a spatial crack appeared before everyone. Everyone gasped. Many of them had seen teleportation magic before. However, forcibly tearing space apart was unheard of. This is the way back, Chen Zhao said, pointing at the spatial rift. Where does this lead to? Everyone had a look of disbelief on their faces. I don't know. In any case, it leads to a certain corner of Earth. Transportation is so convenient now, Chen Zhao said casually. Find a bus and go home. Hurry up. This spatial rift won't last for more than a few minutes. Mr. Chen, my strength might not be worth mentioning in your eyes, but my magic is quite useful. Why don't you let me stay by your side and help you? Lugant said, unwilling to give up. You're right. He still wasn't sure what this place was, but he had a guess in his heart. Lugant, isn't your magic an earth elemental spell? Robert urged. It's not as useful as you say. Hurry up and go home. Mr. Chen doesn't need you. We have enough people. What a joke. The few of them didn't even have enough. If you joined, we'd have to burn some more. Chen Zhao took 60% because he was strong enough. Most of the time, he was the one taking care of the problems. They were the ones being protected, so they accepted Chen Zhao's distribution method. However, they didn't want another person to share their profits. Chen Zhao didn't plan on accepting Lugant and the others either. It wasn't because of the distribution of profits. It was because of trust. If a team didn't have basic trust, they'd be like Becky Lu Lisha. If the team split up halfway, they wouldn't be able to play anymore. While they were talking, the spatial rift had already started becoming unstable. You might have one more minute. Maybe you still want to go back to Ms. Becky Lu Lisha. If that's the case, I won't force you. With that, Chen Zhao turned and left. The others glanced at Lugant and the others and quickly followed Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, why don't you let them go back directly? I'm afraid they won't leave. I know. I'm leaving to give them a chance, Yi Zichen said. Why did you do that? It'll be interesting to cause trouble for our Ms. Becky Lu Lisha. Those people are strong and knowledgeable. They should be able to cause a lot of trouble for Becky Lu Lisha. Just then, the ground started shaking violently. Ha! What's happening now? It should be Ms. Becky Lu Lisha who obtained control of this island. Chen, are you really going to let her keep gaining control over the islands? Including this island, she now has control over 3 islands. She'll become more and more powerful, and the owner of the power she gains will probably be even more powerful. I know. This is also part of my plan. You know who it is. I have a rough idea, Chen Zhao said. After I came here, I already guessed a little. Now, I can probably confirm their identity. Who? Chen Zhao chuckled, not answering Gaia's question. I wonder if this island still has a heart. What kind of monster's heart is it? It's so big. Let's go. Ms. Becky Lu Lisha has already gone to the next island. Don't you think it's strange? We've passed 3 islands in a row. It feels too smooth, Old Ank said. Of course. Without Mr. Chen's protection, do you think it's easy? Famulati rolled his eyes. Perhaps the first or second island would be enough to annihilate all of them. But now, they were almost unharmed. This wasn't easy. It was just because Qin Zhao had taken most of the trouble. That was why they had the illusion that it was easy. Following Becky Lu Lisha, the group arrived at the fourth island. But as soon as they came out of the tunnel, they saw someone before them. It was an unfamiliar woman. She wasn't pretty and was a bit plump and muscular. Her skin was dark and she wore linen clothes. The unfamiliar woman sat under a tree and stared straight at the group coming out of the tunnel. "Hello, outsiders. 16033853311. Chapter 3194. Everyone was ready to fight. This strange woman gave them the feeling that she was out of place. Her appearance was abrupt, her dressing was abrupt, and the way she looked at them was also abrupt. The woman seemed to know their information. Her eyes seemed to be as if she had expected it. Qin Zhao narrowed his eyes at the woman before him. He knew nothing about this woman. He had no information at all. Qin Zhao had a lot of information. He even knew what existed here. But among all the information, there was no information about this woman at all. She seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. "Are you here to stop us?" "Yes." The woman nodded. "I hope you can leave." The woman looked at Qin Zhao. "Or defeat me. You can try." Qin Zhao looked at the woman calmly. He couldn't tell how strong she was. This was very rare. There was actually someone that Qin Zhao couldn't see through. She looked like a normal woman. She didn't stand out at all. "Sorry, I'm not interested in testing you. If we fight, I won't show mercy." "Of course, I don't need you to show mercy either." Very confident, the woman said. The strange woman said, "Those who step into the realm of God are indeed extraordinary, but confidence alone is not enough. The monster at the end of this road has killed a god." Everyone's hearts trembled. Killed a god? What kind of monster was that? Qin Zhao's expression was still calm. "The monster you're talking about isn't you, right?" "That's a bold guess, but I'm not," the woman said. "How can you prove that you're not?" "Because I don't need to be." The woman's body started growing. Her skin also became rough like rocks. Bigger and bigger, 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 10,000 meters, all the way to the sky. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. His face was full of disbelief as he looked at the incomparably huge giant in front of him. This wasn't an illusion. It was a real body. The giant bent down. Her face was 1,000 meters wide. Even her eyes were dozens of meters wide. "I, the ruler of the earth, the creator of the world, am Gaia." The voice was like a clap of thunder, reverberating in everyone's mind. Even Qin Zhao didn't expect the giant before him to be the legendary Gaia goddess. Qin Zhao subconsciously glanced at Gaia. Of course, it was his friend Gaia, not this giant goddess Gaia. Gaia also looked at Qin Zhao helplessly. Although they were all called Gaia, they were clearly not the same concept. At this time, everyone began to retreat. Not to mention winning, how to fight this thing was a problem. "Great goddess Gaia, what is ahead?" Old Ankh could not help but ask. To be able to make the goddess of Gaia appear in person and stop them from moving forward. There was definitely something incredible up ahead. "Why don't you let your leader explain? He should know a lot." Everyone looked at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao said calmly, "World snake Jormungand from Norse mythology, a legendary magical beast that devours the world." Everyone was once again unable to close their mouths. The Olympian goddess Gaia appeared first. And then Jormungand, the world snake from Norse mythology. This was too exciting. "So you do know," Goddess Gaia said with certainty. At this moment, the ground shook violently. Even Gaia almost lost her footing. Goddess Gaia suddenly looked into the distance and furrowed her brows, as if something bad had happened. Goddess Gaia, are you guarding Jormungandr? No, it's a seal. I'm a part of the seal, Gaia said. The goddess of Gaia said, in the past, Zeus led the gods into a war with the Aesir gods. The gods were defeated, but at the critical moment, the Aesir gods released Jormungandr. This terrible monster smashed Mount Olympus, causing the Olympians to suffer heavy casualties. Zeus couldn't kill Jormungandr, but he thought of a way, and that was to release Jormungandr into my world. Chen Zhao raised an eyebrow and looked at Gaia. This is your world. Yes, the world I nurtured, Gaia said. In this world, I also nurtured countless ancient titans. After the ancient titans failed to fight Zeus for the divine right, they fell into a deep sleep in this world. Jormungandr obtained an unprecedented opportunity here. He started devouring this world. This is his authority. He devoured the sleeping titans of this world. This world used to be an entire continent, but under his devouring, the entire world was almost swallowed by the sea. When I realized the severity of the problem, I could no longer kill him. In the end, I could only use my power to seal him here. Everyone was dumbfounded. They thought that Norse mythology and Olympian mythology had nothing to do with each other. They didn't expect there to be such old grudges. Then who won that war? Old Ankh asked. How would I know? Ever since Zeus placed Jormungandr in my world, I fell into chaos. That stupid guy. If he had asked me to help, I could have killed Jormungandr, but he placed him in my world. This caused Jormungandr to continuously grow stronger, even beyond his control. My power was greatly weakened, while Jormungandr kept devouring the titans and my power. Luckily, Jormungandr couldn't devour the power source. Otherwise, everything would have returned to nothingness. No one won, Chen Zhao said. Most of the Olympians have been sealed, along with Mount Olympus. The Asgardians are also close to extinction. Only a portion of the gods are relying on Asgard to survive. Then, Gaia was about to ask for more information. Suddenly, the earth shook. Gaia staggered and lost her balance again. But the next moment, a terrifying snakehead burrowed out of the sea. The snakehead was so huge that it was comparable to Gaia's body. It bit the back of Gaia's waist. Gaia also felt pain from the snake's bite. He turned around and grabbed the snake's head, smashing it with his fists. The snakehead tore off a large piece of flesh from Gaia's waist before shrinking back into the sea. Gaia looked at the sea in shock and anger. Damn, why did he come out? Why did he come out? Chapter 3195. That giant snake was Jormungandr, right? Chen Zhao was confused too. Didn't Gaia say that the seal was still there? Plus, she was a part of the seal. She should know best whether the seal had been opened or not. Just then, Becky Lou Lisha appeared. But she was floating in the air. Her twin spirits also appeared with her, and they hovered around her. Gaia stared fiercely at Becky Lou Lisha and her twins. Jormungandr. How is that possible? Nothing is impossible, the twins suddenly said. The twin spirit suddenly said, 400 years ago, that group of humans broke into this place and opened the first seal. You thought that once the first seal was resealed, nothing would happen. In fact, although my body was not released, my soul was able to escape. My soul has been reincarnating for 400 years and has been spreading the legend of Treasure Island to attract adventurers. Gaia was furious. No wonder humans kept breaking in over the past hundreds of years. Isn't that what you're hoping for? Every intruder will break 1 or 2 seals and leak a portion of my power. Then, you'll use that opportunity to destroy my power. If you do it enough times, you'll destroy me sooner or later, Twin Life said calmly. That's right. This time will be no exception. Gaia said. Ha. It's different this time. Remember the last batch of humans? They reached the 7th stop. They didn't break the seal, Gaia said. Yes, they didn't destroy the seal because I was guiding them. Although they suffered heavy casualties, under my guidance, they still reached the 7th seal. When I reached the 5th, 6th, and 7th seal, I carefully destroyed some of the seals so that my power wouldn't break through the seal. However, I kept the seal intact so that you wouldn't be able to sense it. Based on your habits, every time an outsider breaks into this place, you would allow them to open the first 3 seals so that you could weaken my power. But this time, when the 3rd seal was opened, I also forcefully opened the last 3 seals. Gaia didn't expect that after scheming against Jormungandr for thousands of years, she would be tricked by Jormungandr. Goddess Gaia's face was twisted with anger. Even so, the 4th seal is still with me. Goddess Gaia's voice suddenly paused as she touched her waist. The twin creatures laughed. Do you understand now? I knew that the 4th seal was not on this island. It was on your body. In the next instant, the surface of the sea was torn apart. A chaos serpent that connected heaven and earth rose from the sea. Jormungandr. Goddess Gaia roared angrily. She pulled up a huge mountain beside her and smashed it towards the Chaos Python. At this moment, the Chaos Python opened its mouth and spat out a jet of black water. The huge mountain was directly smashed into pieces by the black water column. The huge water column blasted directly on Goddess Gaia's chest. Goddess Gaia's huge body was blasted away and smashed into the sea dozens of kilometers away. Goddess Gaia's body was so huge that when she collapsed, it set off a monstrous wave. At that moment, the Chaos Python opened its mouth and tried to envelop Chen Zhao and the others. Chen Zhao's dark lava immediately pulled everyone back, pulling them out of the python's mouth. However, the Chaos Python's target was not Chen Zhao's group. It was Becky Lu Lisha and the twin creatures. The next moment, Jormungandr was completely resurrected. Black clouds filled the sky and electric snakes surged. Jormungandr flipped in the lightning. I have reappeared in the world. Now, no one can stop me anymore. Everyone felt that it was the end of the world before them. Just then, Goddess Gaia suddenly pounced at Jormungandr. She was tens of thousands of meters tall and was not inferior to Jormungandr at all. Everyone watched the battle between Jormungandr and Goddess Gaia from afar. They were so shocked that they could not close their mouths. They fought fiercely. Storms, lightning, flames, and hailstones continuously ravaged the nearby sea and the island that Chen Zhao and the others were on. It seemed that Goddess Gaia had the upper hand. Jormungandr wrapped around Goddess Gaia, but Goddess Gaia grabbed Jormungandr's head and kept punching him with her huge fists. Jormungandr could not fight back at all. Looks like Goddess Gaia is stronger, Gaia said. Jormungandr is going to lose. Everyone else had similar opinions, but Chen Zhao was not so optimistic. Chen, don't you think so? The loser will be Goddess Gaia, Chen Zhao said. Why? Don't you think the situation is clear now? Goddess Gaia seems to have the upper hand, but she's in the sea now. She's lost her source of power, Chen Zhao said. What a pitiful deity. She actually lost her source of power in her own world. As soon as Chen Zhao finished speaking, Jormungandr, who was being beaten back, suddenly bit Goddess Gaia's neck and tore off a large piece of flesh. Goddess Gaia staggered back and fell into the sea. She covered her neck in shock. Jormungandr did not chase after her. Instead, he ate with big mouthfuls, enjoying the delicious source of power. In Jormungandr's eyes, Goddess Gaia was the most delicious food. As long as he completely devoured Goddess Gaia, this world would be completely under his control. He would no longer be able to stop her. Everyone turned pale with fright and looked at this scene in disbelief. This was only the beginning of Goddess Gaia's defeat. After Jormungandr devoured that piece of flesh, Goddess Gaia had yet to recover. The injury to her neck was too great. Even she could not bear it. This time, Jormungandr wrapped around Goddess Gaia's body and neck effortlessly. Jormungandr's power increased greatly while Goddess Gaia weakened greatly. This time, Goddess Gaia could not break free from Jormungandra's restraints at all. Jormungandr tore off another piece of flesh from Goddess Gaia's body. At this moment, a green blob emerged from the torn wound on Goddess Gaia's chest and separated from her body. Jormungandr opened his mouth to swallow the green ball. But the next moment, an even faster black shadow flashed by and covered the green ball before Jormungandr could swallow it. Chen Zhao quickly retracted the dark lava and reached out to grab the thing in the green ball. A green key appeared in Chen Zhao's palm. Everyone paled in fear. No one thought that Chen Zhao would not keep a low profile at a time like this. He would even snatch food from Jormungandra's mouth. Chen Zhao did not care about Jormungandr and the others' gazes at all. The green key in his hand was merging with Chen Zhao. Chapter 3196. The green key was similar to the other keys Chen Zhao had obtained in the past. But it was different. Perhaps this key should be called the Ascension Key. It corresponded to the Ascension level. It was a level that was more complete and perfect than the Ascension level that Chen Zhao knew. The green key used an unimaginable method to describe the relationship between the inner world, outer world, body, soul, and magic. Chen Zhao had known and mastered some of it, but there were some things he hadn't thought of at all. It didn't belong to the god system or the cultivation system. It was something common between the two. Chen Zhao had comprehended the ascension state himself, but he was still figuring out everything about it himself. However, the green key saved him all the trouble. It was knowledge and theory that surpassed his knowledge. It was man-made, but not by one person. Instead, it was a group of people, an uncountable number of strong people. Just like the blood-colored key Chen Zhao had obtained in the past, it was made with the blood of hundreds of thousands of people. This green key wasn't made with blood, but with knowledge. Gaia wasn't in the ascension state before she obtained the green key. So, she couldn't perfectly absorb the knowledge in the green key. She had become an ascension state, but she relied on the key's knowledge instead of her own comprehension. But Chen Zhao was different. This key fused faster and smoother than any other key he'd obtained in the past. It even fused with Chen Zhao. The knowledge perfectly made up for Chen Zhao's shortcomings. Jormungandr glanced at Chen Zhao. He was angry that Chen Zhao dared to steal his meat. But he didn't realize what Chen Zhao had stolen. He was more concerned about Gaia herself now. He retracted his attention and started tearing at Gaia's body again. Gaia was still struggling, but it was all in vain. But she didn't beg or retreat. She knew that there was no retreat or mercy in this war. Jormungandr kept growing stronger, while Gaia kept weakening. Chen Zhao didn't participate in this war. He didn't even pay attention. Chen Zhao communicated and fused more comprehensively with the key. Finally, the world collapsed. Gaia's broken body fell on the sea. Jormungandra's body also grew larger, and bone spikes grew all over his body. At this moment, it was the true doomsday serpent. The world was collapsing in its howl. Everyone felt a chill run down their spine. Was this a sign of doomsday? Jormungandr's attention finally fell on Qinzhao. Human, the woman I devoured had a grudge against you for a long time. Even death could not erase her hatred for you. Jormungandr stared at Qinzhao. She was once my sole host. As a reward, I will fulfill her last wish. Looks like she asked the wrong person, Qinzhao said indifferently. Gaia was dead, and the world was on the verge of collapse. But at the same time, the pressure on Qinzhao also disappeared. You don't understand how powerful I am. Jormungandr sneered. Qinzhao punched Jormungandr's huge body from a few hundred meters away, causing it to fall backward. Everyone's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. Qinzhao's tone was still flat. You don't understand how powerful I am. Jormungandra's huge tail swept toward Qinzhao. While doing so, Jormungandra's tail ignited with flames. A mountain blocking the way was smashed into pieces. The momentum was too shocking. Everyone behind Qinzhao felt that this battle was meaningless. But Qinzhao clearly did not think so. Instead of retreating, Qinzhao charged toward the huge flaming tail. The flaming tail slapped Qinzhao. Not only did it not send him flying, but Qinzhao wrapped his arms around it instead. Holding the tail, Qinzhao rose into the sky. Jormungandr was stunned for a moment. But before he could react, Qinzhao had already lifted his entire body. Hundreds of thousands of meters long had long surpassed the clouds. Jormungandr turned around and spat out a black pillar of water at Qinzhao in the sky. Qinzhao had been flying up with Jormungandra's tail. But the black pillar of water made him let go. Jormungandr also landed on the surface of the sea. Everyone was shocked by the scene of immortals fighting. Jormungandr was undoubtedly a monster, and one that could destroy the world. He had just bitten the Gaia goddess into pieces. But what they didn't expect was that Qinzhao could actually fight evenly with Jormungandr. Although both sides had only exchanged a few blows. But this was enough to show how terrifying Qinzhao was. After Jormungandr landed on the surface of the sea, he controlled the lightning to shoot at Qinzhao. Qinzhao didn't care about the lightning at all. He charged straight at Jormungandra's head. Bang! A ring of light exploded in the sky. Qinzhao was sent flying hundreds of kilometers away. Jormungandr was also confused. The two combatants were already very far away from the fourth island. No one could see Qinzhao anymore. Only Jormungandra's body was clearly visible. However, the momentum of the battle was not limited by distance. Both sides fought fiercely, and it was far more intense than the battle between Jormungandr and the goddess Gaia. The two sides seemed like they were really going to fight until the heavens fell and the earth cracked. The fourth island collapsed due to the battle between the two sides. Gaia could only transform into a giant dragon and fly Old Ankh, Robert, Farmalotti, and Akili into the sky. Gaia didn't dare to go near the battlefield either. If they weren't careful and got hit by the shockwaves, they could all be smashed into pieces. This kind of battle had long surpassed their knowledge and understanding. Old Ankh was glad that he had made the initial decision. Robert was also scared. If he hadn't listened to Old Ankh's advice, he probably wouldn't have ended up much better than Becky Lou Lisha. The two terrifying existences that could destroy the world kept clashing head-on. Moreover, both sides were truly enraged. Jormungandr felt that he had even defeated the goddess Gaia. Gaia's power had also become his source of power. He had devoured the primordial titans. He had done what the Asgard divine race had failed to do. How could he lose to this human before him? Up until now, he hadn't been injured at all. He hadn't even used any power. In this place, he was an immortal existence. Even the goddess Gaia couldn't destroy him. Not to mention this human. But Jormungandr didn't know that. As an ascendance-level being, Chen Zhao did not consume any energy at all. Chen Zhao's inner world had a perfect cycle that provided him with endless power. Therefore, in this situation, it was almost impossible to determine a winner. Chapter 3197. Both could control storms, lightning, seawater, and fire. Plus, their bodies were almost indestructible and powerful. As a result, the battle was still in a stalemate until now. Even Jormungandr had to admit. The human before him was even stronger and more difficult to deal with than Gaia. If it was before he devoured Gaia, Jormungandr had no doubt that if he fought Chen Zhao carelessly, the consequences would be very, very serious. Jormungandr's huge head rammed toward Chen Zhao. In the end, Chen Zhao didn't fly away. Instead, he was the first to get dizzy. He had to admit that he wasn't as stubborn as Chen Zhao. By now, the fourth island had turned into nothing. It wasn't just the fourth island. All 7 islands had collapsed. Gaia and the others were in the air. But even in the air, it wasn't safe. The impact of Chen Zhao and Jormungandr's battle had already affected them. Even though Gaia was very far away, both of them were existences that surpassed the god race. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that their battle had destroyed the world. Only now did old Ankh, Robert, Farmalotti, and Aikili truly realize. How terrifying was Chen Zhao. He wasn't at a disadvantage when fighting Jormungandr. Even Gaia had been torn apart by Jormungandr. The airflow within hundreds of kilometers had completely lost stability. It was like a washing machine, wantonly displaying terrifying power. If they got any closer, it wouldn't be a washing machine anymore. It would be a meat grinder. Mr. Chen, can he win? Old Ankh asked worriedly. Gaia wasn't confident either, but she still said, "Don't worry. No one can defeat Chen, not even God." However, Jormungandr was really too strong. Unreasonably strong. But right now, Jormungandr also felt that Chen Zhao was unreasonably strong. Human, stop. There'll be no end to this battle. You should already understand that you can't do anything to me and I can't do anything to you. Jormungandr gave Chen Zhao a way out first. But what he got in return was Chen Zhao's cold smile. Since they had already fought to this point, how could there be any leeway to turn back? If he stopped now, Jormungandr would have to run to Earth. By then, he would swallow Earth's source. Even Chen Zhao probably couldn't do anything to him anymore. If they wanted to fight, they would continue to fight. They would not hesitate to shatter this world. Moreover, if this world was destroyed, Jormungandr would definitely lose. Devouring Gaia's source also meant that he was bound to this world. Therefore, the one who should be worried now was not him, but Jormungandr. They seemed to be in a stalemate. However, their battle would definitely affect the entire world. Jormungandr was naturally unwilling to take the risk of damaging his own origin. But Chen Zhao didn't have such concerns. Chen Zhao could destroy as much as he wanted. It wasn't his house anyway. We've only fought for a short while. Could it be that you can't hold on anymore? Looks like you can't last long enough. Chen Zhao looked at Jormungandr mockingly. Jormungandr was furious. If it was someone else, he would have taught them a lesson in minutes. But since Chen Zhao had said this, there was really nothing he could do. No, it's not like there's no other way. This was his source world. Of course he had a way. It looked like he was in a passive position now, but that was because he didn't want to hurt his source. But at the same time, he could also mobilize the origin of this world. This was something Chen Zhao couldn't compare to. He could infinitely increase his power, but Qin Zhao couldn't. You should know the consequences of angering me, Jormungandr said. Stop here, or both of us will be injured. Qin Zhao smiled. I want to experience the so-called consequences. Golden light flashed on Jormungandr's body. He was mobilizing the source of the world to strengthen himself. But just then, Qin Zhao's body also started flashing with golden light. The light was the same as Jormungandr's. Jormungandr's expression changed. How was this possible? How could he mobilize the source of the world? No, he wasn't mobilizing the source of the world. Jormungandr looked at Qin Zhao in shock. What was going on? Where did he get the source of the world from? Qin Zhao didn't have so many questions. He was trying to mobilize the source of his inner world. This was the power he'd comprehended from the green key. The sixth level of the primordial regression technique, source form. Unlike Jormungandr, who needed to be in his source world to mobilize the source, Qin Zhao carried it with him. He didn't need to be restricted by geography at all. Another thing was that Qin Zhao's inner world had formed a perfect cycle. In other words, Qin Zhao truly had infinite power. Gaia was far from reaching the ascension level, so her source world obviously didn't have a circulation system for source energy. Gaia's original world still needed to be replenished. Then, Jormungandr devoured Gaia's source. It was even more impossible for him to create a perfect cycle. This was the difference between the two. They seemed to be on the same level now. But they weren't really on the same level. Jormungandr thought that he had infinite power. This was because his power came from this world. For a normal person, the power of a world was infinite. But their opponent was Qin Zhao. The energy they used every moment was astronomical. At this level of consumption, even the energy of an entire world might not be enough for them to squander. Then, let the second round begin. Qin Zhao raised his arm. The golden world expanded wildly, forming a golden spherical world. In the past, Qin Zhao's world didn't have any substance. As long as Qin Zhao didn't activate it, there was almost no way to detect it. But now, Qin Zhao's world seemed to be real. Jormungandr also spread out his own golden domain. Both golden domains were shockingly large, reaching hundreds of kilometers. They collided with each other, neither retreating. The seawater was forced back by their terrifying power. The dry seabed was revealed. The seabed was torn apart and magma spewed out. Gaia and the others were stunned. This had surpassed the stage of magic. No power or greatness could describe this battle. This was a battle of gods. Qin Zhao raised a hand and a dozen golden neutron stars appeared in the sky. Each golden neutron star had a mass of billions of tons. Qin Zhao released his arm and the golden neutron stars fell with destructive power. Jormungandr could block one golden neutron star, but he couldn't block all of them. The golden neutron stars landed on the ground, instantly evaporating the seawater. Jormungandr was furious because Qin Zhao had already started destroying the world. Qin Zhao wanted to take drastic measures and destroy his foundation. Chapter 3198. Stop right there. Jormungandr opened his bloody mouth and spat out a golden lightning pillar. Qin Zhao quickly dodged Jormungandr's golden lightning pillar. The golden lightning pillar streaked across the sky, tearing it apart. In the natural world, the bigger the body, the more powerful it was. It was an advantage in natural survival. But when the two were equal in strength, the smaller the body, the more advantageous it was. For example, mountain cats could easily kill sheep 3 times their size. Right now, Qin Zhao was that predator. It was too difficult for Jormungandr to hit an enemy with Qin Zhao's size. But he had to take all of Qin Zhao's attacks. The balance of the war was already tilting. Stop. Qin Zhao casually summoned a dozen more golden neutron stars. These golden neutron stars could only be used in the current origin state. They were far more powerful than normal neutron stars. Even the dark red neutron star couldn't compare. Although it was Qin Zhao's first time using them, he could do as he pleased. Qin Zhao used them as if they were instinctive. Back then, Qin Zhao had practiced tens of thousands of times before barely grasping the dark red neutron star. But after receiving the Green Key's legacy, Qin Zhao's usage of Ascendance-level power had reached an unimaginable level. It was no longer a skill. It was instinct. The golden neutron stars shot toward Jormungandr. But they were all blocked by Jormungandr's golden domain. Then, there was a violent explosion. But such a powerful explosion didn't damage Jormungandr's golden domain at all. Jormungandr's golden domain clashed with Qin Zhao's. It was like two glass beads colliding. Neither could break through the other's domain. Qin Zhao created more golden neutron stars. This time, he created more than 100. Boom, 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 the entire world was covered in golden light. But the golden light didn't represent peace and harmony. Instead, it was filled with destructive power. It was still unharmed. Qin Zhao pouted. It seemed like he couldn't shatter the opponent's world when his origin was intact. At least, he couldn't do it now. Qin Zhao appeared beside Gaia. He reached out and patted Gaia's dragon head. Qin, what's going on? Fly as high as you can, Qin Zhao said. Don't hesitate. Don't stop. Gaia's body was also emitting a golden glow. Qin Zhao gave a sliver of his origin to Gaia. It wasn't much, but it was enough to protect Gaia. As for the people on Gaia's back, they could only pray for their own good fortune. If Gaia was fine, they should be fine. With that, he disappeared from Gaia's side. In the blink of an eye, Qin Zhao was at an altitude of 500 miles. He looked down at Jormungandr. Jormungandr looked up at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao raised his hand and a golden celestial body appeared above his head. A meteorite with a diameter of more than 50 kilometers. Jormungandr realized what Qin Zhao was going to do. He was also on full alert. If he allowed this golden celestial body to fall to the ground, his origin would be severely damaged. Therefore, no matter what price he had to pay, he had to block this golden celestial body. A smile surfaced on Qin Zhao's face. He raised his right arm high and looked down at Jormungandr. You have to catch it. Otherwise, I'll score. Human, there's no need to play tricks like that. I can block that move even with my eyes closed. Really? Qin Zhao let go of his arm. The golden celestial body fell at a shocking speed. Jormungandr's body coiled up. His golden domain was also as dazzling as gold. Qin Zhao pointed a finger at Jormungandr and grabbed. Suddenly, Jormungandr's body froze. With this pause, the golden celestial body had already streaked past his face. How is this possible? Boom, the collision between the golden sky and the ground created a golden wave. Jormungandr spat out a mouthful of blood. His golden domain also shattered in an instant. Then, another golden celestial body smashed into Jormungandr's body. This golden celestial body followed the first one. It was slightly smaller than the first golden celestial body. It used the first golden celestial body to hide itself. Moreover, the second golden celestial body wasn't used to attack the world. Instead, it aimed at Jormungandr. Half of Jormungandr's body was destroyed. Jormungandr lay on the ground in pain. However, he couldn't care about repairing his damaged body. He hurriedly covered the golden domain again. He didn't want Chen Zhao to take the opportunity to attack him again. How is this possible? How did you do it? Jormungandr was furious. How could Chen Zhao freeze his movements from a distance? Although it was only for an instant, Jormungandr was still shocked and furious. Just then, a bit of black lava seeped out of the wound on Jormungandr's body. Jormungandr didn't even dream that after he swallowed Becky Lu Lisha. At the same time, he also swallowed the black lava in Becky Lu Lisha's body. From the beginning, Chen Zhao had buried his evil intentions in Becky Lu Lisha's body. His target wasn't her. Instead, it was for his ultimate goal, Jormungandr. This bit of black lava was barely a threat to Jormungandr. And it could only be used once. Right now, half the world had turned into hell. The shockwave was still spreading to the entire world. Gaia couldn't help but look down. Right now, she and everyone else could only see the scene of the end of the world. It was a true scene of the end of the world. Nothing could be more real than this. It was more impactful than the end of any movie. Chen Zhao looked down at Jormungandr. He didn't stop Jormungandr from supporting the golden domain again. Because this was also his plan. Just then, 2 more golden celestial bodies appeared in the sky. They were even larger than before. This was also Chen Zhao's limit. The 2 golden celestial bodies fell in 2 different directions. Jormungandr was extremely shocked and furious. Right now, he couldn't care less about his injuries. He crashed into one of the golden celestial bodies. The golden celestial body was knocked out of its original trajectory. He wanted to use his tail to sweep away the second golden celestial body. But suddenly, he realized that he only had half his body left. He couldn't use his tail at all. He could only watch as the second golden celestial body crashed into the ground. Jormungandr spat out blood again. His golden domain collapsed again. Chen Zhao formed 2 more golden celestial bodies. Roar! Jormungandr roared at the sky. Human, don't play tricks when you fight me face to face. This is war, little friend. Chen Zhao released his arm again. Jormungandr was in extreme pain. He tried his best to save him, but it was too late. The 2 golden celestial bodies crashed down. A crack that was thousands of kilometers long spread out. Jormungandr supported the golden domain again. However, his golden domain had become much thinner, and it was obvious that it was very unstable. Chapter 3199. Chen Zhao looked down at Jormungandr. This is the consequence of taking other people's things, Chen Zhao said mockingly. Roar, you haven't won yet. Really? Chen Zhao raised his hand again. Hundreds of small golden celestial bodies appeared above his head. Although they were small, they were still a few kilometers in diameter. Right now, you can't stop me from doing anything. Although the hundreds of golden celestial bodies were unable to cause apocalyptic destruction like the previous large golden celestial bodies, they were still powerful enough to destroy the Armageddon. However, it still possessed astonishing destructive power. Hundreds of golden lights descended. Jormungandr shot out a golden lightning pillar from his mouth. Only half of the smaller golden bodies were destroyed. More than half of the golden celestial bodies still bombarded the ground. Jormungandr was finally unable to maintain the golden domain. Chen Zhao also retracted his golden domain. He landed in front of Jormungandr. Jormungandr's body had yet to fully recover. The 3rd round begins now. Roar! Jormungandr roared and charged at Jin Si. Jin Si also rushed towards Jormungandr. The brutal hand-to-hand combat began. Gaia and the others were currently high up in the sky. They witnessed the goddess Gaia being torn apart by Jormungandr. And now, they witnessed Jormungandr being torn apart by Qinzhao. Piece by piece, the flesh was torn off. In terms of brutality, Qinzhao was no worse than Jormungandr. That scene was simply too exciting. During this process, the black substance constantly shuttled through Jormungandr's broken body. At this moment, the golden light on Gaia's body separated and transformed into a golden figure. Although he had no facial features, he could tell from his figure that it was Qinzhao. Qin. Gaia was stunned. Aren't you going to eat a piece? That's the flesh of the world snake. You should be able to digest it. At this moment, a huge piece of flesh fell below Gaia. When it landed on the boiling hot ground, it actually emitted a rich meaty aroma. Old Ankh and the others drooled. Can we eat it? Feel free if you're not afraid of being stuffed to death, Qinzhao said casually. Without a strong digestive system, you'll explode if you eat it. Everyone thought about it and gave up on the idea. Gaia saw Qin encouraging her. She didn't need to worry about anything. Everyone was envious that Gaia had a friend like Qinzhao. If anything happened, Qinzhao would help her. However, the battle in the distance had yet to end. Or rather, the tyranny was not over yet. Jormungandr's life force was extremely tenacious. In fact, as long as his origin wasn't completely taken away. As long as this world was not completely destroyed. He would never truly die. Of course, he did it on purpose. Qinzhao didn't plan on devouring the origin of this world. He did not want to be like Jormungandr, bound to this world. Qinzhao only devoured Jormungandr's flesh essence. He kept absorbing the origin energy from the world origin to repair his body. Then Qinzhao would take the essence of his flesh and blood, as well as his life force. At this moment, Jormungandr was a converter. Rather than saying that Qinzhao was stealing Jormungandr's essence, it was more like he was stealing the essence of the world. Qinzhao fused the excess power into his inner world. Jormungandr realized what Qinzhao wanted to do. But there was nothing he could do. One wrong step, and every step would be wrong. Qinzhao wouldn't give him a chance to turn the tables. In the beginning, Jormungandr was unwilling. He was looking for every opportunity to turn the tables. In the end, he gave up completely. But now, the initiative was no longer in his hands. It was difficult for him to die even if he wanted to. The dark magma had completely spread to every corner of his body. It kept destroying his functions, but it couldn't kill him completely. This feeling was too painful. The dark magma kept returning to Qinzhao's body, returning a large amount of essence to him. At the same time, more dark magma surged out of Qinzhao's body and seeped into Jormungandr's. Jormungandr knew that Qinzhao wouldn't stop until he and the world were drained dry. What Qinzhao did was crueler than him. He had stolen the origin of this world from Gaia. Qinzhao, on the other hand, crushed it, turned it into his own power, and then devoured it. Although their actions were essentially the same, the process was crueler. If possible, Jormungandr wanted to treat Gaia like Qinzhao did. But he didn't have an inner world that could contain such a large amount of essence. At most, he could only do the same things as Gaia and grasp the same power. Jormungandr didn't fundamentally surpass Gaia. This was also the fundamental difference between him and Qinzhao. Because from the beginning to the end, they were standing at different heights. This was the true reason why he lost. Even if Qinzhao didn't use the dark magma, Jormungandr's defeat was only a matter of time. Because his weakness had always been exposed to Qinzhao. Unless one day, he could merge the world's origin into his body and turn it into his own inner world. But he had no chance. Chen Zhao wouldn't give him this chance. Rather than violence, it would be more accurate to say that it was a gluttonous feast. Chen Zhao didn't even let Jormungandr's soul go. He didn't even leave bones behind. Jormungandr's soul was very strong. Even without a body, his soul was as strong as a god's. But in Chen Zhao's eyes, this strength was meaningless. Even at his peak, he wasn't Chen Zhao's match. After losing his body, he couldn't threaten Chen Zhao at all. This world had completely become a dead planet. Chen Zhao didn't pity Gaia. They weren't on the same side. He, Jormungandr, and Gaia could be said to be on 3 different sides. In the first battle between Jormungandr and Gaia, if Gaia was the winner, she would probably have to fight Chen Zhao too. Chen Zhao was quite glad that it was Jormungandr who won. Jormungandr's control of power and the world's origin was definitely not as good as Gaia's. If it was Gaia, the battle wouldn't have ended so easily. After completely defeating Jormungandr, Chen Zhao opened a spatial crack with Gaia and the others. They were in an unfamiliar sea. Just then, Chen Zhao found a huge beast floating below. Leviathan. However, Leviathan was already dead by then. It was the entrance to that world and the incarnation of Gaia. Gaia was dead, so it naturally died with her. But it was still full of treasures. Chen Zhao put Leviathan away. Everyone sighed. This adventure was finally over. But this adventure had brought them quite a lot. Chen Zhao found the treasure left by the Pirate King. But because of the battle between Chen Zhao and Jormungandr, the treasure was almost destroyed. Because of the battle between Chen Zhao and Jormungandr, it was almost destroyed. But even though it was less than 20%, it was still a shocking amount. Chapter 3200. Even if this wealth was split among everyone, it would still be shocking. Of course, Chen Zhao would get more. Preliminary calculations showed that it was worth more than $2 billion. Although Chen Zhao got most of it, no one objected. But no one objected. What a joke. Anyone who disagreed with Chen Zhao now would only be looking for trouble. Chen Zhao could take them back to the mainland. Chen Zhao could take them back to the mainland. But they'd come out with Becky Lalisa. If they went back and Becky Lalisa went missing, it would still be quite troublesome. Even Chen Zhao couldn't avoid it. So, Chen Zhao didn't plan to fly back directly. Instead, he called West and asked him to make the necessary arrangements. Mr. Chen, if you need anything in the future, just find me. Old Ankh wanted to be related to Chen Zhao now. Robert, Farmalotti, and Achilles all rolled their eyes secretly. Of course they knew what Old Ankh was thinking. Actually, they had similar thoughts too, but they were too embarrassed to say it. If I really need anything, I'll find you. Chen Zhao didn't reject Old Ankh. Of course, it was more likely that they'd never talk to each other again after going back. As for whether they'd talk nonsense, they had to have the courage to do so. They stayed on the island for a day. The next day, West brought a boat. After everyone boarded, they all heaved a long sigh of relief. West, how's your arrangement? It's done, West said. You and Becky Lalisa were attacked by magical beasts at sea. Most people died. You're the survivors. Yeah, that's more like it. Chen Zhao nodded. Everyone boarded the boat and returned to the coastal waters. An unfamiliar boat suddenly appeared before them. Logically speaking, it was very likely that they'd encounter other boats in the coastal waters. They shouldn't have any other thoughts. However, the boat was very conspicuous. It was completely painted black. It didn't look like a normal boat either. Instead, its entire body was radiating light, making it look like a bullet. Everyone looked at it. Their first impression was that it wasn't a normal boat. And that black ship was coming for them. Just then, a Gaia opened on the top of the boat and a cannon rose. Yazhawk cannon. West frowned. "They're from Repulse Bay," said Milady. West was surprised. "President, are you related to the people of Shallow Water Bay?" Yes, there was a conflict with the people of Repulse Bay during this operation. Familati was quite familiar with Shallow Water Bay. If it was in the past, she would definitely not want to provoke Shallow Water Bay. It was very troublesome to be enemies with Shallow Water Bay. But now she was not worried at all. These people had come to cause trouble for Qinzhao. He was really tired of living. Sure enough, the battle ended after 20 minutes. It was an uneventful battle. If it wasn't to keep them alive, they wouldn't have needed 20 minutes. Perhaps it was only a minute, or a second. Chen Zhao wasn't interested in how West and the others interrogated the Repulse Bay members. West had a way of making them talk. Not long after, the interrogation ended. The members of Shallow Water Bay were all villains of the supernatural world. But they were definitely not warriors. Not to mention loyalty. That was why West didn't use much torture before they confessed everything. Shallow Water Bay was an American supernatural organization. But they didn't train spiritualists. They only accepted spiritualists who had been expelled from their original organizations. So the members of Shallow Water Bay were very mixed. The organization's internal structure was rather loose. Apart from being members of Shallow Water Bay, most of the members had a second or third identity. There was a headquarters, but it was just a few insignificant people. Apart from a few low-level members who stayed behind, the other members mostly maintained their identities on the surface. They would only gather when there was a mission or when there were benefits to be gained. They attacked Qinzhao because of Xian Zhang's information. Before the ocean-going ship was swallowed by Leviathan, Xian Zhang had already spread the news. Before Shallow Water Bay attacked, they even specially investigated Qinzhao's identity. They realized that Qinzhao was actually rich, a very, very rich person. So this time, they acted under the name of taking revenge for Xian Zhang. However, all the members who participated actually had the thought of making a huge sum of money. They probably couldn't imagine what kind of person they wanted to deal with. "President, do we kill them all or lock them up? Bring them back and lock them up for a while. Let them leave their magic behind." This was the habit of the supernatural organization. Every time they caught a spiritualist, they would first leave a magic record. This was to strengthen the organization's foundation. Although they started late, they were developing very quickly. What about Shallow Water Bay? Give me the information about Shallow Water Bay. I'll warn their boss. "President, I have some information about the Magic High School that appeared in San Francisco last time. Is that Magic High School reliable?" "It's hard to say, Garp," West said helplessly. West said helplessly, "There are 3 founders of the Sorcerer's High School. Before the Spirit Tide, they were all mediocre in the spirit world. I don't know if they were influenced by the Spirit Tide and stimulated their potential. Compared to before the Spirit Tide, they are very powerful now. Also, the source of the funds they used to build the school is unknown. In other words, there's something wrong with them. They don't participate in the management and teaching of the school. They seem to treat this as an investment. I've personally interacted with them and didn't find any unclean magic on them. Secondly, the teachers in the school vary in strength, but they are all ordinary spiritualists. We can find out where they come from. Other than the high tuition fees, there's nothing to criticize. School has already started, and the school has recruited about 200 young students. Maybe because of the Harry Potter movie, the students all treat magic high schools as Hogwarts. What about the environment in the school? Are there any hidden dangers? I didn't find any traces of dangerous magic in the school either. What about the professor's classes? What's the specific content? The main subject is magic. There are practical courses and theoretical courses. Currently, there are 4 subjects: enhancement, elemental, curse, and nature. Chapter 3201. Does the government allow this magic school to exist? No. I don't know what kind of agreement the school has with the government, but at least the school isn't being obstructed or troubled by the government. West paused and then said, or the school itself is connected to the government. Since he confirmed that there was nothing sinister about the magic school, Chen Zhao relaxed. As for the connection with the government, Chen Zhao didn't care too much. Chen Zhao didn't care too much about this. Being connected to the government made him feel more at ease. After all, the government was synonymous with safety most of the time. After returning home, Chen Zhao prepared gifts for everyone in the house. These gifts were all taken from the treasures of Treasure Island. They were all ordinary items, but they could be sold for a shocking price in an auction house. The next day, when Frigga came to teach little Jerlin and Larissa, Chen Zhao handed Frigga a pendant. Chen Zhao gave Frigga a pendant. "Miss Frigga, this is for you." When Frigga saw the pendant, her eyes flashed with surprise. "Is Jormungandr dead?" "Yes, he is." Frigga didn't ask about the process. This result was a bit surprising, but it was reasonable. After all, everyone knew how powerful this human was. Now, only she and Bader were still alive among the Norse gods. Of course, this was referring to people with names. Actually, there were still some Norse gods who weren't that famous. Most of the powerful gods obeyed the rules of the human race. They hid among the humans incognito. Frigga sighed with emotion. Jormungandr was the strongest among the Norse gods. Although he was Loki's child, Jormungandr was far more powerful than Loki. But even Jormungandr couldn't escape from Chen Zhao's clutches in the end. Frigga wasn't sad about this though. After all, even when Jormungandr was alive, he didn't have a good relationship with her. After all, Jormungandr was a general in the Dusk camp. But she was the queen of Odin's camp. "Lady Frigga, can I ask you a question?" "What kind?" "Education." "Go ahead." Didala wants to go to a magic school to learn magic. What do you think? Should I agree to her request? Why are you hesitating? Frigga asked. If it's just for magic knowledge, Chen Zhao said. I can provide much more than the school. But what the school can provide is far more than just magic knowledge. Magic requires communication, Frigg said. Under the same conditions, the one who communicates is destined to have an easier time learning magic than the one who imparts magic knowledge privately. In other words, you approve of her enrollment. Of course, it's not just her. I think the future Jerlin and Larissa should also go to that school. Chen Zhao chuckled. I thought you would say that the knowledge taught in mortal schools is definitely not as good as your magic knowledge. This depends on the upper limit of Didi's talent. If the magic knowledge taught by the school can reach her upper limit, then I believe that no one will be better than me in learning after the upper limit. But before the upper limit, there won't be too much of a gap between the knowledge taught by the school and me. In fact, the atmosphere is very important in learning any kind of knowledge. This is also why human children, even if their families are rich, still choose to enter the school rather than hire a tutor. Then you won't be able to show your value. You're Jerlin and Larissa's private tutor now. They're different. I'm only giving them the basics now. Also, no school can teach them the upper limit of their talent. Just then, Stephen's car arrived. Chen Zhao went to the door to welcome him. "Stephen, why are you here?" "To borrow money," Stephen said straightforwardly. "Ha! You didn't solve the financial crisis last time." Chen Zhao remembered that Stephen had organized an auction when he'd had a financial crisis. Some items were sold at high prices, but when Chen Zhao asked, Stephen said that he'd already solved the problem. "I thought I solved it," Stephen said helplessly. "Then can you tell me about it?" "I invested in a company, and now I have absolute control of the company. However, the company's financial situation is not ideal, and it is still burning money. Once the continuous investment is interrupted, then the nearly $1 billion I have invested will be wasted." "What company?" Logically speaking, Stephen knew financial rules in order better than Chen Zhao. He also knew the risks of the financial industry, so Chen Zhao didn't have to remind him. However, the more knowledgeable you were about finance, the deeper you'd sink if you got greedy. "It's not a normal company." "What industry is it in? Or does it produce something?" "This company is not a regular company," Stephen said awkwardly. "What kind of company is it?" Stephen thought for a moment and said, "It researches alchemy." Chen Zhao frowned. "Stephen, are you looking to die? You know nothing about the spiritual world or magic world. How dare you invest in alchemy? Can you tell the types and effects of alchemy?" Stephen didn't say anything. He just sat there with his head lowered. "How much money do you need?" In the end, Chen Zhao decided to lend Stephen the money. No matter what, just Stephen's name was worth $1 billion. If it were someone else, Chen Zhao wouldn't lend him money. But Stephen was different. He definitely had the ability to repay. The company is currently researching a magic potion to regrow severed limbs. Chen Zhao suddenly turned around and looked at Stephen. A potion that could recover the body in a short time could be sold for at least $1 million on the black market in the spiritual world. This kind of alchemy potion was also extremely expensive in the spiritual world. Stephen's company actually wanted to research such a potion. First of all, the raw materials needed to make the potion would cost millions. This meant that any one of their research department's research would cost millions. This meant that even Chen Zhao might not be able to afford such an expensive company. The most important thing was, so what if they managed to figure it out? There were already such alchemy potions in the spiritual world. This company was researching other people's products that were already mature. At this time, their alchemy would definitely not be able to compete with other people's products. Unless Stephen wanted to reduce the cost and price of the potion to a few $1,000s. But was that possible? Chapter 3202. Do you know that such potions have existed in the spiritual world for a long time? Chen Zhao asked. I know. I think that if we combine science and magic, we might be able to make the potion at a lower cost. Chen Zhao was speechless. He looked at Stephen. Did the person in charge of the company tell you this? Yes. Is there a problem? You're a typical expert trying to trick a layman. Can you even find the person? I've been tricked. You know that alchemy and magic all have magic formulas. When the raw materials are combined, they form a magic circuit or a magic formation. You can replace magic with magic, but it's impossible to replace magic with science right now. It's like how cars need gasoline. Current technology can't replace gasoline with water. Maybe it'll be possible in a few hundred or a few thousand years, but definitely not now. Stephen's expression grew more and more ugly. But they only buy expensive raw materials. I've seen their accounts. Do you have their accounts? Stephen thought for a moment. Then he took out a printed account and handed it to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao glanced at it and said, "Wait here for a moment." A few minutes later, Chen Zhao returned with 2 plants. Do you recognize these 2 plants? Stephen looked at the 2 identical plants, confused. I'm not a botanist. One of them is the fierce heart grass on the account. It's one of the main ingredients of the arm regrowth potion. It's worth around $500,000 on the market. What about this one? Isn't it also fierce heart grass? No, it's just a regular plant. It's called white rose. They're almost the same. Yes. Only people who use magic can tell the difference, Chen Zhao said. That's what the company you control uses to trick investors like you, or rather, suckers. Chen Zhao paused. They're colluding with the raw materials, or they're in cahoots. Also, if you want to participate in the market for the arm regrowth potion, you need to find an alchemist. Find a few reliable alchemists and form a research team, not a company with unknown qualifications. Chen Zhao didn't need to say the rest. With Stephen's business knowledge, he already knew. Once the crux of the matter was pointed out, many doubtful points would turn into proofs. How much did you invest? Chen Zhao asked. The total investment is about $1 billion. In fact, Stephen's loss was more than $3 billion if he included the mortgage and the like. Where is their company located? In Las Vegas, New Magic Technology. Have you evaluated their company? Yes, I've looked into it beforehand, and I've also seen their clinical trials. Clinical trials are useless. They can buy a bottle of real medicine from the market in advance. For a layman like you, this kind of experiment is indeed very shocking. Or, there is another method that is more economical. Perhaps they are looking for a spiritualist with powerful regeneration abilities, such as this. With that, Chen Zhao cut his finger. The wound on his finger healed at a visible speed. Stephen slumped onto the sofa. He couldn't accept the fact that he had invested all his fortune into a group of swindlers. One had to know that Stephen was an investment expert himself. Back then, Stephen had even helped Chen Zhao deal with some financial problems. Now, Chen Zhao couldn't just ignore Stephen's situation. Let's go. Take me to see those swindlers. Let's see how much we can recover. No, we're not calling the police. Stephen asked, stunned. How much do you think the police can help you recover? Or can the police handle spiritualists? Can you? Let magic solve magic's problems. Chen Zhao also called West and asked him to gather the members who weren't on missions. From Stephen's description, the company had quite a lot of people. If Chen Zhao was alone, there would inevitably be some who slipped through the net. He had to catch them all at once. A group of people arrived in Las Vegas in a grandiose manner. Stephen's face was filled with worry. After all, he had gambled almost all of his fortune on this operation. He had considered many solutions. Calling the police was one. Or, he could have a showdown and negotiate with them. If he couldn't get the money back, he would basically have to file for bankruptcy. Or, he could borrow more money from Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao couldn't guarantee anything. After all, the money was in the bank. He didn't know how many accounts it had been split into. If he wanted to recover the money, he could only arrest all the people involved in the scam. Stephen gave Chen Zhao a list of everyone he knew. Then, Chen Zhao would arrange the arrests. Under the night sky, Chen Zhao and Stephen arrived before a villa. Mr. Allor, where are you now? Mr. Stephen, what's up? I'm here to talk about the follow-up investment. Oh, I see. I'm at home. Do you want to come? Or we can talk at the company tomorrow. I'm at your door, Stephen said. Just then, the door to the villa opened. Chen Zhao and Stephen walked in. They saw Allor in the living room. Chen Zhao glanced at Allor. He looked like an elite in the workplace. Even though he was wearing casual clothes at home, he still gave off a decent vibe. Mr. Stephen, who's this? My friend, Stephen said. You can call him Chin. Oh, he's in the same industry as you. Hello, Mr. Chin. Allor was surprised, but he was still calm. He shook Chen Zhao's hand. Mr. Stephen, what do you want to talk about this time? I want to divest, Stephen said. Divest? Why? Allor looked at Chen Zhao from the corner of his eyes. Since he was in the same trade as him, did he hear any bad news from him? I missed the market. Anyway, I want to get my money back, not a single cent less. Mr. Stephen, the money you invested has been converted into research in the laboratory. I'm afraid you won't be able to get the money back. However, you can try to sell the shares in your hands. Although you are not optimistic about it, I believe that our company's future is still very popular. Mr. Allor, I'm afraid you've misunderstood me. Not only do I want to sell my shares, but I also want to get back all the money I invested. Chapter 3203. Smiling, Allor looked at Stephen. Mr. Stephen, are you joking with me? Not really. Stephen shook his head. At the same time, he took out a document. I have evidence that you and your company are committing fraud. Stephen had collected all the companies that Allor had bought materials from. They were all fake. In other words, the materials that Allor had bought with Stephen's investment were illegal. Mr. Stephen, you have to understand that many magic materials aren't normal purchases. People don't know about the magic material merchants, so they don't go through any procedures. I don't care. I only know that you're using my funds illegally, so you only have one choice: return my money to me. What if I refuse? Allor still didn't care. I'll hire the best lawyer and apply to freeze your bank account, as well as any account that has any transaction records with your bank account. No matter how many parts you split my money into, no matter how many times you transfer it, it'll still end up in my pocket, Stephen said casually. You can deceive me in your field, but in the field that I'm good at, you won't be able to fight back, Stephen said casually. Allor's expression darkened. Mr. Stephen, your thinking is very dangerous. Stephen was actually scared too. Nevertheless, Chen Zhao gave him an encouraging look. Stephen could only muster up his courage and continue. I'll make you lose everything. I'll use all my power so that you won't even be able to walk out. Everyone will know that you're a liar, both among the ordinary people and in the spiritual world. Allor was instantly enraged by Stephen's words. He suddenly flipped the table and threw it at Stephen. Stephen covered his head in fear, but the next moment, the flying table froze in the air. Stephen put down his hands and stared at the suspended table in shock. Mr. Allor, Chen Zhao said, smiling, this house still needs to be used to pay off the debt, so please don't destroy any of the furniture or equipment here. Allor's expression changed. His 10 fingers suddenly turned into the sharp claws of a beast and swiped at Chen Zhao. However, his arm only swung halfway through the trajectory, and it was difficult for it to move even a single inch. You're really ugly right now, Chen Zhao said indifferently. Do you know what it means to admit defeat? Allor glared at him hatefully. I haven't lost yet. As long as you all die here. Ha! Chen Zhao chuckled. Please have some financial knowledge. Steven can apply to freeze your account, but after you transfer the money 3 times, you won't be able to get it back. But from the moment you attacked, the nature changed, Chen Zhao said. LoveLore didn't want to say anything now. He just wanted to kill Chen Zhao and Steven. Actually, Chen Zhao was fishing. But who cared? Chen Zhao had never been the kind of person who followed the rules. Originally, this could only be considered an ordinary financial dispute. Even if Steven had evidence, he couldn't force Chen Zhao to act. But from the moment LoveLore made his move, the situation changed completely. It turned into a psychic attacking and deliberately murdering an investor. Chen Zhao took out his phone and called West. You can do it now. West and most of the supernatural organization members were in Las Vegas. They were stationed near most of the employees' residences and outside the fraud company. LoveLore tried to attack Chen Zhao and take his phone. But Chen Zhao only pointed and LoveLore was pressed against the wall by an invisible force. Steven calmed down. It seemed that finding Chen Zhao was a wise choice. LoveLore was a druid. He tried to transform into a beast. But even so, he couldn't break free from Chen Zhao's control. At first, Steven was worried that LoveLore would break free. But gradually, he realized that LoveLore was just putting on a one-man show. He kept tossing and turning, but in the end, he was still hanging in midair. Go and see if you can find any evidence or other hidden bank accounts. Steven nodded and quickly went to rummage through the cabinets. At the same time, he took LoveLore's phone and computer with him. LoveLore, his employees, and even his partners, none of them escaped. Of course, some of the employees were innocent. They just treated it as an ordinary job. These people had to be screened. Soon, all of LoveLore's bank accounts, sub-accounts, and even related accounts were wiped out in one go. But Steven only got half of his money back. Most of the money had been converted into other properties. Chen Zhao didn't have a good solution either. Modern finance created more opportunities, but it also brought a lot of shadows. LoveLore used his network to continuously send money in and out, spreading it across the financial network. It was already good enough that he could get back half of his money. LoveLore also confessed his accomplices. Then, Chen Zhao got back another 100 million for Steven. This time, Steven was greatly hurt by the scam. He didn't go bankrupt, but he was still in a lot of debt. Most of it was in the bank. In order to raise money, he'd mortgaged many properties to the bank. Chen Zhao could only lend money to Steven and have him pay back the money and get the mortgaged assets back first. Steven had become much more haggard these days. Steven, did you patch up the hole on your side? I basically did, but my assets have shrunk greatly. Steven rubbed his forehead. When can Mystical Island open for business? Mystical Island was still under construction, but it had been hyped up by the media. Right now, Mystical Island was very popular. You know my Petamon, right? Yes, that giant killer whale. What's wrong with it? It's been a bit too big recently. I plan to make it public through Mystical Island. Huh? What do you mean? Simply put, I plan to make it the guardian of Mystical Island. Will it affect Mystical Island's brand image? Steven didn't want to cause any more trouble. After all, he'd already been hurt by the scam. Right now, Mystical Island was doing very well. He only hoped to maintain this situation until it officially opened to the public and tourists. Its appearance will shock the world. Are you so sure? You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.